Three unparalleled powerhouses from completely different dimensions were on a collision course, entirely unaware of each other's existence. The chaos kicks off in the martial arts world, deep inside the heavily fortified illusory demon castle, headquarters of the dreaded demonic sect. A bloodied messenger rushes into the grand hall with massive news. The rival Murim forces have been completely slaughtered. The commanders erupt into cheers, bowing to their sect leader and congratulating him on finally becoming the undisputed ruler of the martial world. But the purple-haired sect leader doesn't celebrate. Instead, he glares down at the kneeling messenger, sensing an entirely foreign and dangerous energy radiating from the man, and demands to know who he really is. Realizing his cover is blown, the messenger sighs about how hard life is and throws off his cloak. The entire hall freezes in absolute terror. It isn't a messenger at all, it's Gang Wujin, the god dragon and the absolute strongest warrior of the Murim faction they thought they just wiped out. The commanders panic, screaming that Wujin was supposed to have died after falling off a deadly cliff at the 10,000 Canyons. Wujin just laughs it off, revealing he actually fell down that cliff 5 separate times and still survived, proving the heavens want him to settle the score right here. Calling out the demonic sect leader Lim Hotan by name, Wujin triggers the absolute fury of the loyal guards. They rush him from all sides, screaming for his head, but Wujin just flashes a sinister smirk. In a blur of motion, he unleashes a brutal massacre, tearing through the elite demonic guards like wet paper and painting the throne room steps with their blood. Landing with a massive shockwave that rattles the surviving commanders, Wujin casually apologizes for crashing their victory party unannounced. Standing over the mutilated corpses of the elite guards, Wujin casually reveals that surviving his fatal fall off the cliff actually boosted his Kai. The surviving demonic commanders completely lose their minds, screaming to ring the alarm and summon the entire army. The demonic sect leader Lim Hotan raises a hand, silencing his men. He can already sense the remaining Murim forces swarming the illusory demon castle from afar. Hotan smirks, figuring out Wujin's strategy. The god dragon is just here to cause chaos at the front door to buy time for his allies to launch a massive sneak attack from the rear. Hotan orders his commanders to intercept the ambush, declaring that he will deal with the god dragon himself. To prove he is dead serious, the sect leader vows to execute anyone who dares to interrupt their one-on-one duel, sending his terrified subordinates running to obey. Wujin playfully acts embarrassed that his master plan was exposed so easily. He teases Hotan, asking if his lackeys will really survive against the Murim elites, but the sect leader doesn't care. Hotan declares that Wujin is the only martial artist alive capable of fighting him on equal footing. Our hero flips the script, pointing out that Hotan is the only demon strong enough to entertain him too. Smiling, they both agree it is time to finally put an end to their exhausting, lifelong rivalry. Without another word, they clash, sending a massive shockwave of purple lightning and raw energy tearing through the courtyard. Wujin laughs through the destruction, asking if Hotan is seriously trying to end the fight the second it starts, as their explosive blows completely level the surrounding landscape. Closing the distance, the two legends trade brutal hand-to-hand strikes in a blur of motion. Wujin flashes a cocky grin, effortlessly slipping past Hotan's defenses and delivering a devastating kick that sends the demonic sect leader rocketing through the rubble. As Wujin casually walks forward and readies a bone-crushing punch, Hotan realizes he is being pushed back. Refusing to be humiliated on his own turf, the sect leader erupts with crackling dark energy, unleashing his full demonic power to meet the god dragon head-on. As his dark energy violently erupts, Hotan admits he was always terrified of what would happen if he unleashed his true power. But Wujin just smirks, revealing that he feels the exact same way. The two legends launch themselves at each other, their monstrous auras colliding with earth-shattering force. The impact creates a massive, crackling vortex of pure energy that tears the battlefield apart. Pouring every ounce of his demonic Kai into the strike, Hotan swears he will send the god dragon straight to hell. But while these two martial arts legends tear their world apart, a completely different kind of history is being made in a futuristic universe. In a desolate, snowy landscape, a brilliant, hot-headed inventor named President Sylvia prepares to activate a massive pair of mechanical portals. However, her lead researcher, Tommy, starts getting cold feet. Tommy nervously stammers that they should have waited for government permission for a test of this scale. Refusing to let bureaucracy stall her genius, Sylvia immediately puts him in a brutal headlock, yelling that waiting for politicians would take a lifetime. She proudly gestures to her life's work, the TS-9716 teleportation system. Sylvia explains that by successfully teleporting a human using her advanced mechanical suit, she will completely revolutionize transportation history and force the government to accept her tech. When Tommy still tries to protest, Sylvia snaps that she is the one risking her life and orders him to start the machine. The massive mechanical gate hums to life, and Sylvia readies herself to silence her doubters once and for all, but just as the teleportation begins, something on her monitors catches her off guard. As Tommy frantically reports that an unknown energy field is tearing into their lab, Sylvia watches in horror as the teleportation gate completely destabilizes. A massive vortex of lightning erupts from the machine, and a figure in crimson armor crashes through the chaos. It is Gang Wujin, the god dragon himself. Still hyped from his cataclysmic final clash, Wujin lunges forward to strike Lim Hotan but freezes when he realizes his rival is gone. Instead, he finds himself staring at a bunch of terrified scientists in a bizarre, glowing room. Panic sets in as our hero wonders if the Demon King actually killed him in a single blow and sent him straight to hell, his mind suddenly spinning with disorienting visions of crows. Over in the control room, Sylvia and Tommy are losing their minds, especially since the gate did not even fully open, meaning this strange warrior just materialized out of thin air. Refusing to believe he is dead, Wujin quickly rationalizes that this must be one of the demonic sect's infamous witchcraft illusions. He screams into the air, demanding Hotan drop the cheap tricks and fight him like a man. Sylvia tries to communicate, but Tommy frantically reports that their real-time translation system is completely failing to recognize Wujin's language, even after scanning the entire global database. Meanwhile, Wujin realizes this so-called illusion has zero killing intent, so he decides to investigate the towering security robot standing in his way. The giant mech known as Power Raver steps up to block his path, but Wujin just smirks, warning the machine that size means absolutely nothing to him. With a single, casual strike, he completely flattens the massive robot, warning it to stay down or he will turn it to dust. Tommy stammers, asking if their invincible mech just suffered a system error, but Sylvia is too stunned to even process what she just witnessed. Rushing off the destruction, Wujin stands victorious, still complaining about his rival's weird taste in illusions, until Sylvia screams for him to wait, and a massive mechanical arm suddenly launches a surprise attack right at his back. Sylvia refuses to let him leave until she figures out who he is, fully expecting the heavy machinery to restrain him, but Wujin just sighs. Annoyed that the illusion wants to keep fighting, he grabs the massive robotic arm barehanded and lets out a deafening battle cry. Sylvia and Tommy watch in utter disbelief, assuming the man has a death wish. But a second later, Wujin effortlessly blasts the machinery into scrap metal, bursting from the debris without a single scratch. Dusting himself off, our hero finally puts the pieces together, at least in his own head. He figures that since this is one of his rival's demonic traps, the only way to shatter the illusion is to completely destroy everything in sight. As Wujin locks eyes with Sylvia and marches straight toward her, pure panic sets in. Tommy frantically checks the security playback and realizes the horrifying truth. Their heavily armored mech didn't glitch out, this man just obliterated it with pure physical force. He screams for his boss to run for her life. But before Wujin can reach her, the entire room shakes violently. The dimensional gate behind them critically ruptures, spewing wild arcs of quantum lightning across the lab as warning sirens blare. Sylvia screams at her team to cut the main power, but a terrified Tommy reveals they already did. The portal is somehow sustaining itself. The blinding electrical storm intensifies, and a mysterious silhouette begins to materialize from the rift, leaving Sylvia frozen in shock. As the smoke clears, a brand new figure steps out of the dimensional tier, completely unfazed by the roaring lightning. Staring at the newcomer, a young woman clutching a magical staff and wearing a heavy cloak, Sylvia and Tommy are left completely speechless. Just when they thought dealing with an overpowered martial arts god was bad enough, they now have a second-dimensional anomaly standing right in the middle of their ruined lab. Staring down the blonde newcomer, Wujin is completely thrown off. He senses that she's incredibly strong, but her energy feels completely foreign to his martial arts instincts. The girl slams her staff down and accuses our hero of creating this bizarre illusion, swearing that his changed form won't fool her because she can feel the massive flow of mana radiating from his body. Behind the reinforced glass, Sylvia and Tommy frantically check their monitors, but the system pulls up zero data on the strange language she's speaking. The girl proudly introduces herself as Emily, the disciple of the Grand Magician Highwalker. But Wujin just scratches his head, wondering what kind of chaotic, nonsensical illusion his demonic rival is trying to pull off this time. Deciding to ignore the confusing mage for a moment, Wujin turns his attention back to the giant mechanical suit. Inside the cockpit, Sylvia screams threats from her Power Raver mech, until she realizes the controls are completely dead. Tommy frantically admits that hitting the lab's emergency kill switch earlier completely cut the suit's power, leaving Sylvia a sitting duck as she screams at him to turn it back on. Seeing the massive metal beast just standing there dazed, Wujin steps right up to it. He flashes a predatory smirk, asking if the machine is paralyzed by fear, and pulls back his glowing fist to deliver a fatal blow. But before he can turn the billion-dollar mech into scrap metal, Emily unleashes a barrage of magic missiles right at his back. A massive explosion engulfs our hero, sending shockwaves through the ruined lab and leaving Sylvia staring at her monitors in absolute disbelief. When the smoke clears, Woo-jin is standing there without a single scratch, glaring daggers at the girl who just dared to ambush him. Emily realizes instantly that her basic mana attacks are completely useless against a monster of his caliber. Refusing to back down, the young mage channels a massive surge of energy and casts a high-tier meltdown spell right beneath his feet. Sheer heat instantly liquefies the solid floor, sending Sylvia and Tommy into a total panic. But instead of burning, Woo-jin just looks down at the bubbling earth with a massive, sinister grin. To the martial arts god, this isn't a deadly magical trap. It's just a brand new martial art he's never seen before, and he is thoroughly entertained. Up in the control room, Sylvia and Tommy are absolutely losing their minds. Down in the arena, Woo-jin casually steps into the air, using his void steps technique to literally fly. To the scientists, a human defying gravity is scientifically impossible, but to the god dragon, it is just basic footwork. Emily realizes her previous spell did not even leave a scratch, but before she can process it, Woo-jin charges right at her. He confidently declares that he sees right through this illusion, fully convinced that she is actually his lifelong rival, the demonic sect leader Lim Ho-tan in disguise. He even jokes that if Ho-tan was going to trap him in a fake world, he should have at least picked a sexier one. Pushed to the brink, Emily slams her staff down and unleashes a massive inferno flame spell. A colossal magical circle engulfs Woo-jin, detonating in a blinding, earth-shattering explosion. Even the martial arts god is momentarily caught off guard, wondering what kind of insane martial art could produce an attack like this. The blast is so massive it nearly gives Tommy a heart attack. He desperately tries to convince himself that they are just trapped in a mass hallucination because a random girl summoning a giant pillar of fire makes zero logical sense. But Sylvia shatters his hopes, pointing out that she can physically feel the blistering heat from the control room. This nightmare is 100% real. As the smoke clears, Sylvia's jaw hits the floor all over again. Woo-jin steps out of the roaring inferno completely unscathed, flashing a manic, bloodthirsty smirk. He casually compliments Emily on her extreme yang technique, still fully convinced her high-tier magic is just a martial art that uses a ton of yang energy. Up in the lab, Sylvia and Tommy are just exhausted from being constantly shocked. Deciding playtime is over, Woo-jin clenches his fist and announces that since she has shown him all her tricks, it is finally his turn. He charges forward, screaming at the Demon King to prepare himself, while Emily grips her weapon and braces for the impact of a charging god. Staring down the terrified mage, Woo-jin smirks and tells her not to look so much like a helpless dog, mocking that he almost feels bad using violence against a mere illusion. But Emily is not going down without a fight, instantly firing back by unleashing a barrage of ice spears right at his face. Back in the control room, Sylvia and Tommy watch the monitors in stunned silence, unable to comprehend how the martial artist just walked right through a blazing inferno. On the battlefield, Emily is just as horrified, watching in disbelief as Woo-jin shatters her ice barrage and emerges completely unscathed. Annoyed that she interrupted his monologue, our hero fires back a blinding blast of energy. As Emily reels from the realization that both her fire and ice magic are useless, Woo-jin smugly flips the script. Mistaking her magic for the extreme yin martial arts technique, he boasts that he became completely immune to ice after surviving 4 cliff falls and eating the legendary eternal snow roots. Realizing she is completely outmatched, Emily resolves to go all out, summoning a massive lightning storm to strike him down. The two titans clash head-on, unleashing a shockwave of blinding energy. The sheer force of their battle begins tearing the environment apart. The scientists watch in absolute horror as a massive gravitational vortex rips open between the two fighters, violently pulling in everything around them. When a giant, multi-million-dollar piece of equipment gets sucked into the anomaly and instantly destroyed, Sylvia completely loses her mind over the cost. Refusing to go bankrupt, she orders Tommy to route all power to her Power Raver mech so she can personally break up the fight. But Tommy flat-out refuses, warning her that stepping into that gravity field is pure suicide. For a brief moment, the nervous researcher looks like an absolute Chad, bravely telling his boss that her life is far more important than the company's bottom line. But money always talks louder than loyalty. Sylvia simply threatens to fire the entire staff if they don't flip the power switch, and Tommy's subordinates instantly sell him out to pay off their mortgages. With the power finally rooted, Sylvia locks into her cockpit, ready to dive straight into the deadly anomaly. The second her staff confirms the Power Raver is online, Sylvia stomps her giant mech right into the center of the catastrophic lightning storm. She furiously yells that she doesn't care what dimension these intruders came from. If they break her expensive equipment, she is chasing them to hell to collect the bill. But charging a machine into a clash between a Murim master and a dimensional mage isn't exactly a great business strategy. The mech systems instantly seize up in the gravitational vortex, and as Sylvia screams that she refuses to go bankrupt like this, a massive blast of lightning strikes her rig head-on. The sudden explosion catches both Woo-jin and Emily completely off guard. Emily braces herself against the blinding light as the fragile mechanical suit is violently tossed around in the chaotic crossfire of their clashing powers. Annoyed, Woo-jin curses the giant lump of metal for getting in his way. But as he squints through the electrical discharge, he freezes, realizing there's an actual human girl trapped inside the cockpit, screaming in absolute agony as the raw energy tears through her suit. Willing to let an innocent civilian get cooked alive, the god dragon immediately starts withdrawing his aura. Emily notices his sudden drop in power, and sensing that something is horribly wrong, she pulls back her magic as well to figure out what's happening. But it's too late without their opposing forces keeping it in check. The massive gravitational vortex spirals completely out of control, swallowing the entire battlefield. When the dust finally settles, Tommy and the rest of the research team rush to Sylvia's side, horrified by the apocalyptic wasteland that used to be their lab. But Sylvia isn't scared in the slightest, she's absolutely furious. Stomping right up to Wu Jin and Emily, she screams at them, demanding they confess to destroying her life's work. Jin, however, is completely unfazed. Staring at the furious, scantily clad inventor, he chuckles, fully convinced that this is just another one of Lim Hotan's elaborate illusions. Complimenting the Demon King's craftsmanship, Wu Jin confidently reaches out and pokes Sylvia right in the chest, expecting his hand to pass through. When it doesn't, he blinks in surprise and shamelessly pokes her again just to be absolutely sure. As Wu Jin loudly marvels at how incredibly realistic the Demon King's new tricks feel, Sylvia's brain finally processes what just happened. Her face burns bright red before she violently explodes, screaming at the pervert to drop dead and demanding he pay for both the physical destruction and the severe mental damage he just inflicted on her. Reality suddenly hits Wu Jin like a truck. Remembering that the giant metal mech he punched earlier was completely solid, he clutches his head in absolute panic. He might not speak her language, but murderous intent is universal, and he realizes with horror that his flawless reputation as the Miram faction's most polite warrior has just been permanently ruined. Situation instantly devolves into complete chaos. Sylvia shrieks about her ruined multi-trillion-dollar portal, while Emily aggressively demands to know where Lim Hotan is so she can return to her own dimension. But with no working translation system, the three powerhouses are just screaming in different languages, driving each other absolutely insane. Fearing that Sylvia is about to get them all killed by provoking the two anomalies, Tommy desperately tries to de-escalate the situation. He frantically waves his tablet in her face, promising that he's found some groundbreaking data that she needs to see right now. Pulling up the energy readings, Tommy reveals that when Wu Jin and Emily clashed, their opposing powers generated a massive spike of quantum transition energy, the exact same core technology used in their teleportation system. He theorizes that these two aren't just from another world, but that their explosive clash perfectly matched the lab's frequency, accidentally hijacking the portal and summoning them across dimensions. Hearing this, Sylvia's anger vanishes, replaced by a sudden, dangerous realization. Sylvia realizes they are dealing with literal beings from another dimension. To bridge the massive language barrier, Tommy brings out a prototype brainwave-detecting helmet designed to translate thoughts into understandable speech. The device looks incredibly cheap, but Sylvia doesn't care, ordering Tommy to go put it on the terrifying intruders. Naturally, the researcher refuses, terrified that getting close to beings who can summon fire and ice out of thin air will get him killed. Sylvia argues that she just got up close to them and survived, but her cowardly researchers point out that she isn't exactly normal. With her entire staff offering pathetic excuses about being newly married or single, Sylvia calls them all useless idiots and decides to do it herself. Meanwhile, Wu Jin is quietly analyzing the room. Since he now knows this isn't a demon's illusion, he checks everyone's Kai, realizing the scientists are just weak, ordinary civilians. But Sylvia gives off a strange energy, leading him to suspect she practices some bizarre, abnormal martial art. Giving up on her cowardly staff, Sylvia marches right up to the martial arts master. She holds out the dorky helmet and demonstrates how to wear it, explaining that it will help them communicate. As the researchers watch with bated breath, Wu Jin glares at the device. He arrogantly assumes it's a trap meant to capture him and scoffs that he won't be fooled so easily by advanced trickery. But despite his suspicions, he ends up testing the device, and to everyone's shock, his words actually translate. Sylvia cheers as Tommy's prototype works perfectly. The victory is short-lived, however. The moment Wu Jin starts yelling again, the translation scrambles into static gibberish. Tommy frantically types at his terminal to calibrate the frequency, begging Sylvia to keep the conversation going. Sylvia quickly asks for his name and where he came from. The martial artist proudly introduces himself as Gang Wu Jin, but immediately demands to know the location of the Demon King, warning that his world's Miram alliance will be slaughtered if they don't capture the villain. The translation starts breaking down again. Frustrated that his dire warnings aren't getting through, Wu Jin aggressively steps closer to Sylvia, making her sweat as his towering presence looms over her. Before things can escalate, Emily steps between them. Pointing at the translation helmet, the mage demands to know where they are and asks for the whereabouts of someone named Shahart, even though she can sense that Sylvia isn't the person she's looking for. Emily warns that if Shahart isn't found, the world will end, but the prototype helmet starts glitching out. Back at the console, Tommy sweats bullets, realizing they don't have enough linguistic data to translate perfectly yet. Frustrated by the broken communication, Wujin starts losing his cool, demanding they point him toward the Demon King and telling them to back off with their weird metal hats. But Sylvia has finally had enough. Screaming over the chaos, the brilliant inventor points straight at the smoking ruins of her machine and drops a harsh truth bomb. She spent years building that dimensional teleporter and they just blew it to pieces, meaning they are completely stranded. The reality of the situation hits the two interdimensional warriors like a freight train. Realizing they just trashed their only ticket home, the god dragon and the mage instantly drop their aggressive attitudes. Swallowing his immense pride, Wujin formally bows his head and apologizes for destroying her belongings. Letting out a heavy sigh, Sylvia accepts the apology, admitting there's no point crying over spilled milk. She promises to send them back to their respective worlds eventually, but until she can rebuild the machine, they just have to wait. With the immediate crisis averted, she orders her team to pack up the test data and pull out. As they pack up, Tommy warns that it'll take weeks to fully decipher their languages, and nervously asks if Sylvia plans to reveal these aliens to the press. Sylvia looks at him like he's insane, knowing that if the government finds out about this unauthorized experiment, they'll be ruined. But Sylvia isn't running a charity. Flashing a wicked grin, she reveals her true motive. She plans to figure out how these two generate raw quantum energy, patent it, and make billions before sending them packing. Keeping two walking weapons of mass destruction hidden from the media requires a very secure location. Later that night, a sleek futuristic car pulls up to a massive, heavily fortified gate. Stepping out into a sprawling, illuminated courtyard, Sylvia casually welcomes the two bewildered warriors to her humble home. As the grand double doors swing open, Wujin immediately goes on high alert. Scanning the massive estate, the god dragon realizes he can't sense a single other aura inside the sprawling mansion. Emily notices it too, and both warriors tense up, fully expecting they've just walked into a deadly trap. Suddenly, a voice echoes through the grand hall, welcoming Sylvia back and noting that she's late. Instantly sensing a presence, Wujin and Emily draw their weapons and prepare to strike, forcing a panicked Sylvia to scream at them to stop before they destroy her house too. Before they can tear her living room apart, Sylvia quickly explains that the voice is just her home automation system's robotic maid. She admits she prefers machines over human servants because they actually do what they're told and never talk back. To calm the tension, Sylvia reveals a massive feast she had the system prepare in advance for them. Our two hardened warriors are genuinely touched by the gesture, bowing their heads and thanking her for the warm welcome, which leaves the usually tough CEO completely flustered and blushing. Trying to hide her embarrassment, Sylvia warns them that if they break anything else, she's kicking them out to the streets. Wujin immediately starts stuffing his face, but when he notices Emily standing completely still, he jokes that she must be worried about poison. But Emily flat out refuses to eat at the same table as a pervert. Wujin furiously defends his Murim manners, but the mage fires back that a polite guest wouldn't eat before their host. In seconds, the two are right back at each other's throats, blaming one another for being trapped in this world as their battle auras violently flare up again. Meanwhile, Sylvia hops in the shower, brushing off Tommy's earlier warnings that these interdimensional anomalies would end up destroying her house in their sleep. She smiles, thinking they actually aren't that dangerous, and wonders how long it's been since this massive mansion actually had guests. Her peaceful moment is instantly shattered by a massive explosion shaking the entire house. Sylvia rushes out in a panic, only to find her dining room completely trashed. Wujin tries to blame the mage, but the moment he catches a glimpse of his host fresh out of the shower, his eyes wander, prompting Emily to instantly blast him with a fireball while Sylvia screams at them to stop. Sylvia screams at the two interdimensional menaces, demanding to know if they plan to level her entire mansion. Wujin just brushes it off, complaining that the mage was getting on his nerves. But before Sylvia can kick them out, her lead researcher Tommy calls in an absolute panic. Stressed beyond belief, she orders her AI to turn on the TV to see the news. The screen flashes to life, displaying a robotic dinosaur exhibit. Having never seen a television, Emily assumes it's a threat and immediately launches a magic missile. Meanwhile, Wujin senses no aura from the man on the broadcast, so he assumes the host is a master of illusion magic and charges up a massive tiger strike to obliterate him. Sylvia shrieks for her AI to kill the power. The screen goes black, leaving Wujin to smugly assume the so-called master got scared and fled. Exhausted and desperate for a stiff drink, Sylvia finally asks Tommy what could possibly be worse than her currently exploding living room. Tommy delivers the bad news. A heavy-duty construction mech known as a Power Raver has gone completely berserk in the 3rd precinct and is tearing up the city. Sylvia asks which incompetent company is responsible for such a massive malfunction, only to spit out her whiskey when Tommy reveals it is their own tech. Realizing her company is about to be ruined, she frantically orders the TV turned back on. But Wujin and Emily are already back at each other's throats, trading dragon strikes and fireballs until another massive explosion rocks the mansion, leaving Sylvia screaming at the two lunatics to stop. Out in the futuristic city of Asaddle, the situation is a complete disaster. The news broadcasts that the Walden Group's rogue mech has already severely injured over a dozen workers, and the police are scrambling to contain the fallout. Down at Ground Zero, Police Chief Sanderson is losing his mind. Even with two heavily armed patrol units, they can't bring down a single rogue construction bot, a grim testament to just how well Sylvia's company builds their machines. Cursing the Walden Group, Sanderson orders his rookie to flank the rampaging Golden mech, finally landing a desperate, sparking hit with armor-piercing rounds. Armor-piercing rounds finally penetrate, but instead of shutting down, the Golden mech goes absolutely berserk. It grabs a nearby police bot, crushing its head like a tin can and revving a massive saw blade to finish the job. The rookie pilot screams for his life, barely saved when his squad leader intercepts the strike in a brutal metal-on-metal clash. A massive explosion finally drops the rogue machine, leaving the exhausted pilots gasping for air and wondering what the hell made a simple construction bot charge them with murderous intent. As the dust settles across the snowy industrial zone, the tactical teams confirm the mad machine in Region 52-4 is finally subdued. They prepare to rip out its black box and sweep the final sector, but their radios suddenly cut out as a massive downdraft kicks up the snow. Sleek corporate helicopter touches down, and Sylvia steps out to face the music. The SWAT teams immediately recognize the famous Walden Group CEO, but they're completely baffled by her entourage. Emily asks why they've been dragged out into the freezing cold, and Sylvia bluntly admits that if she left the two of them alone in her mansion, the entire estate would be erased from the map. Woojin just groans, wanting to wrap this up so he can go back inside. The tactical guys snicker at their ancient robes, assuming Sylvia brought a couple of weird cosplayers to a war zone. Realizing she needs to keep her interdimensional guests on a tight leash, Sylvia begs them not to attract any attention. But before the words even leave her mouth, boom, a massive explosion rocks the landing pad. Through the smoke, Woojin blushes and scratches his head, sheepishly admitting he only touched her expensive corporate chopper because it looked interesting. Sylvia nearly has a heart attack. You can take the god dragon out of the Murim, but you can't put him near modern technology. Meanwhile, Chief Sanderson is busy barking orders to swap out his mech's battery packs. He takes a drag from his cigar, shaking off the near-death experience and swearing to upgrade their armor. Sylvia marches up to take control of the situation, but the chief shuts her down immediately. He warns the billionaire CEO that she wasted a trip. Every piece of data from the rogue machine is going straight to the police, and all her corporate money won't buy her a cover. A man expresses a desire to investigate a malfunctioning power raver system, while a woman spots someone named President Sylvia. A man angrily confronts someone, blaming their company's power raver for putting his subordinates in danger. The woman suspects the man intends to use her to cover up his company's actions and warns him to stop. The woman questions the man's intelligence and disbelief, asking if the situation appears to be a normal accident. The woman argues that a power raver system should shut down on malfunction, suggesting a deliberate hack. A man warns that if the hack was programmed, the men sent in are in danger. A woman comments on the disrespectful nature of another, implying their meeting was arranged. A man tells someone to go back as the requested black box has already been sent to superiors. A man exhales smoke, attracting the attention of a woman and another man. A man questions the costumes of the woman and the other man, wondering if they are heroes. A man asks President Sylvia why she doesn't ask the other two for help if she needs the black box. A person comments on the presence of power ravers in a city. A group of people, including a man and woman, are near a tactical vehicle. A woman expresses her strong displeasure with a government official. A man offers help to a woman named Sylvia. The woman declines an offer of help, telling others not to worry. Emily learns that Sylvia is in a difficult situation and expresses concern. A blonde woman frantically tells someone not to draw attention to them. A man states it's a martial artist's duty to help saviors, and Emily wants to help. A man on a phone expresses disbelief at a request for help. A blonde woman confesses she felt compelled to ask for help. The man on the phone questions the president's sanity for seeking help. If they create a gravitational field again, this entire city will be blown apart. Two figures in cloaks walk in a snowy, industrial-looking area. A man examines a complex holographic interface, seemingly lost in thought. He questions the structural integrity of something abandoned for too long. A robot reports to its boss, having gathered everyone with a sense of urgency. A robotic SWAT officer commands attention from his comrades in a dark tunnel. Close-up of robotic SWAT officers, showing details of their armor and weaponry. A man with a futuristic visor urgently states they only have the 8th region left to search. The subway tunnel built for the old city is dangerous with unstable electricity and dead zones. The robotic SWAT officers are ordered to leave immediately with their partners. A stern commander warns his subordinates about the dangerous enemy and their mission. The two protagonists are in a desolate industrial environment, possibly a tunnel or underground passage. A closer view of the man and woman, highlighting their determined expressions and attire. A man's intense gaze is directed towards a woman, creating a moment of connection or tension. The woman's face is shown in a close-up, revealing her green eyes and a subtle blush. A man's expression is one of contemplation or concern, indicated by a trailing ellipsis in a speech bubble. A warrior confronts a woman, warning her that she will impede his progress. He believes facing risks is a warrior's duty and assures someone he will handle it. He emphatically orders the woman to retreat immediately. The woman appears hesitant and concerned by the situation. She declares her identity and her commitment to serving others. He declares that the woman, whom he calls a pervert, will obstruct him. The first panel shows two figures in ornate robes in a dimly lit, textured environment. The character shouts in distress, claiming they are not a pervert. The character looks up in fear amidst imposing, glowing structures accompanied by strange lettering. The character looks up with a surprised expression, questioning something. The characters are in a dark, starry environment, with one of them questioning the presence of darkness. The two characters share a moment of surprise and concern, indicated by exclamation marks. Plunged into darkness, Woojin notices Emily getting flustered. Figuring a little light would help, he channels his Kai to use the eyes of night martial arts technique, intending to illuminate the cavern. But he accidentally pumps way too much energy into it, blinding himself with a massive, uncontrolled flash. Emily tries to play it cool, boasting that as a high-tier mage, she absolutely does not fear the dark. But Woojin can clearly see her shivering and finds her tough guy act pretty amusing, assuming she doesn't realize he can see perfectly in the pitch black. Just as his eyes adjust, Emily casts her own light spell, blasting him with a second blinding flash. Woojin screams that she's trying to burn his retinas out, but Emily just snaps back that he was annoying her. Bickering like children, the two overpowered warriors finally reach a crossroads deep in the facility. Back on the surface, Tommy is freaking out that Sylvia let those two wander off alone into a restricted zone. But Sylvia knows keeping two walking natural disasters nearby would just cause a bigger PR nightmare. She's way more concerned about her berserk mechs, so she forces her way into the police investigation as a technical assistant, completely fed up with Chief Sanderson's stubbornness. Down in the pitch-black facility, two police officers are piloting their own mechs through the creepy unmapped tunnels. They notice the rogue machines seem to be deliberately hiding from them and start gossiping about Sylvia's excuse for tagging along. She claims she needs to check the black boxes for hacking, which the cops find highly suspicious, wondering if the Walden group is actually the victim this time. Suddenly, a glowing light cuts through the darkness at the end of the tunnel. It's Emily. She casually walks right up to their massive armored mechs and innocently explains that Sylvia sent her down here to fetch a black box. Cops absolutely lose their minds, furious that a billionaire CEO would send a little girl into a deadly combat zone. They frankly try to radio headquarters for an emergency rescue, but they're in a complete dead zone. The boss decides to abandon the mission to escort the civilian to safety, but before they can move, the radar blares red. A massive multi-legged Walden Walker mech drops out of the shadows, ready to tear them apart. The situation instantly spirals out of control as the boss spots Emily casually wandering into the crossfire. Panicking, he orders Peter to evacuate the civilian while he draws the rogue Walden Walker's attention. Peter acts concerned for his superior, but the boss is completely confident. Having fought these machines earlier, he already memorized their structural weak points. He screams at Emily to run, but the dimensional mage just blankly stares at the giant metal war machines. Realizing the girl might be completely out of her mind, the boss focuses on the fight. He realizes the giant mech is just a mid-class construction model and expertly targets its joints with heavy fire. Within moments, he cripples the machine, sealing its movements so he can safely extract its black box. But the second he drops his guard, another massive unit blindsides him from the shadows, violently smashing his mech aside. The boss is horrified, mindless. Berserk robots shouldn't be capable of coordinated ambushes. That's when the horrible truth drops. Peter's damaged comms suddenly click on, his voice dripping with smug arrogance. He mocks his superior, revealing that he faked his own defeat and intentionally hacked the mechs. He masked their code to frame Sylvia's Walden group for murdering a police officer. The worst betrayals always wear a friendly face. Furious, the boss demands to know who orchestrated this massive corporate sabotage. But Peter just laughs, admitting he has no idea who the mastermind is. He's simply a mercenary cashing a very fat paycheck. The boss swears he'll kill him for this treason, but Peter reminds him they're trapped deep inside a signal-dead zone. No one is coming to save him, and no one will ever know the truth. Bidding his boss a final farewell, Peter brings his mech's massive arm crashing down for the execution. But before the lethal blow can land, a blinding shockwave of blue magic detonates across the tracks, violently blasting Peter's mech away. Stunned, the traitor looks through the smoke to see what hit him, only to find Emily standing calmly in the rubble, her staff glowing with absolute power. After completely obliterating Peter's mech, Emily urgently checks on the police boss to make sure he is all right. The boss is absolutely stunned by her firepower, but completely misunderstands her magic, assuming she must be a highly classified Walden Group combat cyborg to explain her weird outfit and insane strength. But the ambush isn't over yet. A sudden warning rings out as another rogue mech fires a massive energy blast down the tracks, engulfing the area in a devastating explosion. Meanwhile, further down the tunnels, Gang Woojin is wandering the darkness looking for the hacked mech's black box. He is quickly spotted by two heavily armed security mechs who demand to know how a civilian got down here. Our god dragon, completely clueless about modern technology, just points at the giant machines and asks if there are actually humans inside them, before proudly announcing that Sylvia sent him to fetch a box. Pilots assume he is just some crazy guy and order him to evacuate immediately. When Woojin refuses to let them interrupt his mission, the pilots warn that they will have to drag him out by force. That is the absolute worst thing you could say to the strongest warrior of the Muram faction, and Woojin flashes a razor-sharp grin, asking if they are seriously trying to threaten him. His aura starts flaring wildly around him, but the oblivious pilots simply reach out with a massive mechanical hand to grab him. With a casual flick of his wrist, Woojin catches the giant metal fist barehanded, leaving the pilot panicking as his multi-ton machine is completely immobilized by a single human. Woojin smirks, noting that even in this new world, there are still arrogant bullies who think having a bigger body means they automatically win. His fist ignites with blazing red aura, ready to vaporize the multi-million-dollar machine into scrap metal. Right before he can turn the pilot into a red mist, a brilliant light floods the tunnel and Sylvia finally arrives on the scene. She urgently demands to know where Emily is, completely ignoring the stunned security pilots who realize they are looking at the billionaire CEO of the Walden Group. Sylvia brushes them off, sarcastically claiming she is just the warranty service here on a business trip. Back with our billionaire CEO, Tommy frankly reports that Emily's life signal just flatlined on their trackers. The security pilots assume she's already dead, but Sylvia realizes the young mage must have just stumbled into a deadly trap. Hearing this, Woojin doesn't waste a single second and immediately declares he's going after her. Sylvia tries to tell him they should go together, but the god dragon is already gone. He blasts off at supersonic speed, leaving nothing but a massive crater and a cloud of dust in his wake. Sylvia curses under her breath, completely unable to get used to his ridiculous speed. The security pilots are left stammering, begging to know if that guy is even human, but their questions are cut short. A massive, multi-legged enemy mech suddenly bursts from the rubble. The pilots panic, screaming at each other to activate their guns and keep their distance before they get crushed. But Sylvia isn't just a CEO who sits behind a desk. Taking control of a massive Walden Group heavy-duty mecha, she steps right into the line of fire. She admits the rig is clunky and barely holds its balance, but its raw firepower is unmatched, and she promises to show these rookies the absolute greatest warranty service her company has to offer. Meanwhile, on the other side of the tunnels, the police boss is screaming his lungs out. He demands to know if his corrupt pilot Peter is out of his mind for firing armor-piercing rounds at a human. But as the smoke clears, Emily is standing there completely unharmed. Her magical blue shield shatters, and with her translator glitching out, she innocently asks why he just attacked her. Refusing to accept reality, Peter curses his aim and unleashes a massive barrage of rockets straight at her. The police boss screams at the young mage to dodge, finally realizing his own subordinate is the true enemy. A devastating explosion rips through the train tracks. Peter smirks, convinced he just vaporized her. But the worst mistake you can make is underestimating a dimensional mage. As the dust settles, Emily is still standing there perfectly fine. The corrupt pilot breaks into a cold sweat as Emily grips her staff, her translator violently glitching as she declares him a bad guy and swears she won't forgive him. Emily doesn't hesitate. She slams her staff down, summoning a massive, glowing magic circle beneath the corrupt pilot's mech. Before Peter can even process the data flashing across his screens, thick, glowing vines erupt from the earth. It's the grasp of the world tree, and it instantly engulfs his entire heavy artillery machine in crushing wooden tendrils. Red warning screens flood Peter's cockpit as his actualization system hits critical failure. Through her glitching translator, Emily gives him one last chance to surrender, leaving the mercenary completely stunned that a little girl is single-handedly dismantling his rig. Desperate, Peter scrambles at his console to find a workaround. But he isn't the only threat on the battlefield. Out of nowhere, a second, far more massive enemy robot looms over the tracks. Before Peter can even react, the mechanical titan grabs his entangled mech and brutally smashes it into the ground, leaving the corrupt pilot screaming in sheer terror. Emily casually shields herself from the explosive shockwave with a dimensional barrier. Walking through the wreckage, she spots Peter lying bloody and broken in the rubble. Her kind nature takes over and she asks if he needs help, but the bleeding mercenary just laughs, warning her that she really shouldn't be worrying about anyone else right now. Emily turns around just in time to see the giant rusty titan towering directly over her. Seeing his chance, Peter screams at the machine to crush her before she can chant another spell. The colossal robot brings its massive leg down in a devastating stomp, kicking up a massive cloud of concrete and debris. But as the dust clears, Emily isn't crushed. Instead, she's being held in the arms of the god dragon himself, Gang Wujin, who scolds her for almost getting herself killed. Emily blushes and stammers out a thank you until she realizes exactly how he's holding her. Because Wujin's supersonic flight completely burned off his clothes, she immediately panics, screaming and beating the absolute daylight out of her savior while calling him a pervert. Watching this bizarre scene unfold, Peter assumes pervert is just the model name of a new android. Deciding not to waste the opportunity, the mercenary prepares to wipe them both out while they're distracted. But you don't just ambush the strongest warrior in the Murem faction and live to tell the tale. Wujin doesn't even flinch. Gathering a massive surge of pure Kai into his hand, the god dragon unleashes a blinding shockwave that obliterates the incoming barrage in an instant, leaving Emily completely speechless. Up in the cockpit, the enemy pilot is completely baffled. Realizing his targeting system is still fried from Emily's magic, he decides to drop the fancy tactics and rely on sheer brute force. Revving up his massive Waldenbrand Titan, the pilot charges forward, fully intending to crush these so-called androids into scrap metal. But brute force means absolutely nothing against a living god. Before the machine can even land a hit, an invisible, earth-shattering force slams into its chassis. The shockwave rips through the armor, leaving the pilot staring at his failing monitors in absolute terror. Down below, Wujin casually cracks his knuckles and points right at the towering machine, demanding to know who is stepping up next. Realizing he just picked a fight with a monster, the pilot slams on the thrusters and scrambles away in a blind panic. Meanwhile, Wujin flashes a feral grin, fully expecting the giant metal beast to put up a decent fight. But his excitement instantly turns to pure disappointment when he realizes his opponent is actually running for the hills. He sighs, annoyed that the enemies in this bizarre world always manage to ruin a good brawl. Before he can complain further, a bright light catches his eye. He turns to see Emily kneeling over Peter, the corrupt mercenary who got smashed by the Titan earlier. Wujin watches in awe as she channels her dimensional magic, fascinated by a healing method that completely defies the laws of Murem. As the soothing light mends his broken body, Peter slowly opens his eyes to see Emily glowing like an angel, groggily asking if he just woke up in heaven. But Emily quickly shuts down his romantic delusion, bluntly telling him that if he dies, it's going to cause a massive headache for her. While Peter snaps back to reality and scrambles to figure out what just happened to him, the real threat is still on the move. Deep in the tunnels, the rogue pilot who fled the scene is sweating bullets, completely baffled by the sheer power of Sylvia's Walden androids. But realizing the robots are just running on simple AI to retrieve the black box, he figures he still has a chance to turn the tables. Pushed into a corner, he decides to flip the script, swearing to bury everyone alive under the rubble with his ultimate weapon. But before he can act, Sylvia intercepts him through her sleek white proxy robot. Furious that her company's reputation is being dragged through the mud, the brilliant CEO demands to know who hired him, threatening to lock him in a prison cell for the rest of his life if he doesn't talk. Instead of answering, the cowardly mercenary blasts her robot with a surprise attack. But when the smoke clears, he's horrified to see Sylvia's mech completely unfazed, forcing the panicked pilot to ignite his thrusters and make a run for it. Knowing he's trapped, the mercenary drops the tough guy act and sneers that Sylvia will die before she ever uncovers his employer's identity. Sylvia screams in panic, begging him to stop. Eating up her desperation, the maniacal pilot laughs and tells her to scream for a savior as he unleashes a massive, blinding golden energy beam to wipe her out. But the worst mistake you can make is asking for someone's savior to appear. Out of nowhere, Wujin drops from the sky, crashing onto the giant mech and unleashing a devastating dragon bullet strike that obliterates the Titan in a deafening explosion. As the dust settles, our hero casually checks if Sylvia is okay. But instead of a thank you, Sylvia furiously demands to know why he interfered, revealing her mecha is built from a special alloy that would have effortlessly tanked the blast anyway. Worse, she scolds Wujin for brutally murdering the one criminal who could clear her name, screaming that now she's going to take the fall for everything. But Wujin just smirks, explaining that as a man of justice, he read the pilot's Kai flow and held back his strike. Sylvia breathes a massive sigh of relief as she spots the mercenary still alive, just completely knocked out and foaming at the mouth in a humiliating pose. Sylvia asks Wujin to help drag the captive out, but the god dragon suddenly freezes. His eyes lock onto the darkness as he warns her that something absolutely gigantic is heading straight for them. The ground violently shakes as a colossal mechanical beast bursts through the cavern. Sylvia stares in absolute shock as a massive, ancient tunnel construction machine bears down on them. Woojin casually asks if this giant metal monster belongs to her, and the CEO reluctantly admits that her company built it ages ago. But this is no time for corporate pride. Sylvia realizes this rampaging behemoth was Peter's Deadman's switch, triggered to bury them all. Desperate to stop it, she decides to hack into the mercenaries' wrecked mech to find the remote override. Meanwhile, back at the Walden Group labs, Tommy and his team are casually sipping coffee, completely oblivious to the underground chaos. Sylvia frantically tries to ping her lead researcher for backup, but her proxy robot has been plunged into a total communication dead zone, leaving her completely cut off. Further down the tracks, two police mech pilots feel the violent tremors. Before they can even react, the colossal construction machine blasts past them at terrifying speed, instantly obliterating the tunnel walls and leaving the cops staring into a massively expanded cavern. As the destruction spreads, Sylvia warns Woojin that if the machine reaches the surface, Asadul's entire metro system will be wiped out. The god dragon just stares blankly, having absolutely no idea what a subway is. Furious, the CEO screams at him to stop studying modern vocabulary and just smash the thing before a catastrophe hits. Woojin blinks in surprise, casually pointing out that he's been running away this whole time because he thought he wasn't allowed to break her company's expensive property. Pushed to her absolute limit, Sylvia sarcastically snaps at him to go ahead and try to break it if he thinks he can. That is all the permission the Murim warrior needs. He eagerly lunges straight at the colossal machine, forcing a panicked Sylvia to scream that she was only joking and that he's going to get himself killed. Woojin doesn't hesitate for a second. Gathering his overwhelming kai, the god dragon dives straight into the crater and channels his ultimate technique, a blinding, fiery sphere of pure destruction. Sylvia can only watch in absolute shock as a massive explosion of light and lightning erupts, scorching the entire underground cavern. The sheer force of the blast triggers a massive shockwave that rattles the entire city above. Police mechs stumble from the sudden earthquake, and back at Walden Group headquarters, Tommy and the other researchers spill their coffee, though they quickly brush it off as a minor tremor. But down in the tunnels, Sylvia is left completely dumbfounded. As the dust clears, the colossal construction machine has been completely obliterated. Staring at the muscular warrior standing casually in the wreckage, she wonders if he literally hides bombs inside his body. Woojin casually asks if she's alright. A panicking Sylvia immediately warns him that he can never use that kind of monstrous power in front of anyone else. She breathes a sigh of relief, thankful that no one else was around to see it, until she turns around and realizes a massive crowd of survivors just witnessed the entire thing, prompting her to scream in absolute horror. Meanwhile, high above the city in a luxurious skyscraper, an assistant approaches a mysterious elder lounging in his penthouse. She asks why he's still awake, but the man just smirks, swirling his drink. He scoffs that it's impossible to sleep after feeling an aura that incredibly strong, and looking out over the glowing skyline, he eagerly welcomes this unknown powerhouse to their brand new world. Back at the crater, the military and police finally secure the snowy industrial zone. Standing beside her remote-controlled mech, Sylvia lets out a heavy, exhausted sigh, just glad the catastrophic subway crisis is finally over. But the clock is ticking. Sylvia barks orders at Tommy to secure the black box data and fix the teleportation system immediately. With the military swarming the area, they need to extract Woojin and the others before the media sniffs out their superhuman secret, so they quickly herd everyone toward an extraction vehicle. While waiting to board, Hotan awkwardly clears his throat, blushing as he apologizes to Emily for accidentally grabbing her earlier during the chaos. But Emily isn't even thinking about that. Looking completely drained, she admits she's terrified for the allies she left behind in her own dimension, knowing how much time has passed. Woojin overhears this, his expression darkening with quiet realization as someone yells at them to hurry up and get on. The group finally loads into a luxurious transport chopper and takes to the night sky, leaving Sylvia to wonder if she actually managed to cover their tracks. Spoiler alert, she didn't. Down in the rubble, Chief Sanderson marches right up to Woojin, completely mind-blown, demanding to know how a shirtless guy just vaporized a massive machine. Sylvia quickly pilots her mech between them and tries to play it cool, lying through her teeth that she triggered a self-destruct sequence. But Sanderson isn't an idiot. He stares her down and bluntly tells her she can't fool him because he saw exactly what Woojin did. Realizing the secret is out, Sylvia's face drops into a terrifying, ominous glare. Sanderson sweats bullets, thinking she's about to silence him permanently, and Woojin casually asks if he should just kill the cop. Sylvia instantly breaks character, screaming at Woojin that they aren't murderers, before proudly declaring she has a much more efficient weapon. Her grand master plan? Raw capitalism. She threatens to wire a massive sum of hush money into Sanderson's bank account, warning that if he snitches, she'll frame him for taking bribes. Sanderson just sighs, embarrassed he was even scared of her for a second, and furiously fires back that if she deposits a single cent, he'll go straight to the press. Then the stubborn chief softens. He admits that despite being tossed around like a rag doll during the fight, he hasn't got a single scratch on him. Looking over at Emily, he realizes the young mage healed him, and he refuses to put his savior in danger. Plus, he admits no one would ever believe a guy punched a tunnel borer into vapor anyway. Sylvia immediately bursts into obnoxious laughter, gloating that his silence was her plan all along. Chief Sanderson just stares at the CEO like she's lost her mind, completely bewildered by her unhinged outburst. Catching her breath, Sylvia finally realizes she might have acted a little too crazy in her panic and quickly tries to play it cool. Safely aboard her private transport back to the city, Sylvia finally relaxes. She catches herself staring at Wu Jin's ridiculously defined muscles, completely zoning out until the god dragon calls her name and snaps her back to reality. Looking out the window, Wu Jin points to a massive, ominous structure piercing the night sky. Sylvia explains it's a black tower, warning them that it's an incredibly dangerous zone, but she immediately notices a dark shift in both of her otherworldly guests. The mood in the cabin suddenly plummets. Emily admits she's terrified for the comrades she left behind to face the deadly Ashahart, while Wu Jin shares the exact same guilt over leaving the Murem faction unprotected. Seeing them so depressed, Sylvia smiles and flips the script, revealing they have absolutely nothing to worry about. She explains that her quantum machine doesn't just track space, it tracks time. When she fixes it, they'll be sent back to the exact millisecond they left, meaning their worlds are perfectly frozen until they return. While Emily instantly understands the temporal mechanics, Wu Jin's brain practically short-circuits trying to grasp the concept. As her transport finally descends toward her massive estate, Sylvia completely crashes, declaring that after the absolute chaos of surviving a rogue machine and covering up superhuman martial arts, she's going to sleep for a very long time. Sleep only brings ghosts of the past. Years ago, a young Sylvia stood in a lab asking her father about a massive oven-like machine. Her father's wealthy backer reminded him that Sylvia was the future chairman of the Walden Group and deserved to know the truth. With a confident wink, her genius father promised that the machine wasn't dangerous at all. It was going to show her a brand new world. Black panel with 3 white sound effects in the center right. Bright, fiery background with 3 white sound effects in the center right. A dire situation unfolds as researchers are trapped and the power supply must be cut. The control room environment becomes unstable, showing the urgency of the situation. Desperate cry for Papa echoes in the darkness. A human should have limits to his absurdity. Teleportation, what the hell was he talking about? What are we going to do about the money we invested and the wounded employees' compensation? Men discuss the consequences of their actions and the use of an abandoned site. They plot to cover up the incident with misinformation and legal maneuvering. Is money really that important? The man seems overwhelmed by the situation and its financial implications. The protagonist is haunted by the traumatic memory of her father's death. Her distressed expression suggests she's experiencing a nightmare or reliving a painful memory. She appears to have woken up abruptly, possibly from a disturbing dream. This panel focuses on a detail of the woman in bed, emphasizing her vulnerable state. She vocalizes her recurring nightmare, indicating a persistent source of distress. Sylvia is asked about her sleep and hints that recent events may be affecting her. A meeting with the board of directors is approaching, requiring document review. The woman acknowledges the upcoming meeting and the need to review documents. A person is seen outside in a vast green field holding a staff. The woman sits in a field, a book in front of her glowing with magical energy. The book continues to emit magical energy, drawing the woman's attention. Another woman approaches, noticing the first woman and apologizing for disturbing her. She reassures someone that Sylvia is a friend and they can observe a ritual. She questions what the ritual of memorization is, wondering if it's energy transmission. The ritual is explained as something all disciples of a Highwalker do daily. She inquires if the ritual is similar to a morning exercise. She observes that this world is different from the one Emily previously inhabited. She confirms the world is different, noting people can't create ice and fire like the other person. Character questions the reason for their feelings. One character reassures others that they will be helped to return safely. Emily thanks Sylvia for her hospitality. Character promises to be a source of strength. One character insists another change their attire, referencing a long-held thought. 2 characters react with surprise and embarrassment. Koswainus. The man is clearly distressed by something happening in the bathroom. 2 women, Sylvia and Emily, arrive to report an emergency. The man is surprised to see Sylvia and Emily. The women question the man's apparent ignorance about a toilet. The man insists he knows what a toilet is but questions the situation. A man expresses his surprise after an unexpected event in the bathroom. Woman inquires about bidets, revealing a lack of familiarity. A woman complains about the man's destructive behavior with household items. The man questions if he has made another mistake. The woman scolds the man for breaking things and advises him to ask for help. A call interrupts the tense situation, announcing a call from Director Graham. A woman asks if she should connect something with a man looking concerned. Two characters are told to quiet down while one is instructed to connect something. A woman is addressed by Director Graham and asked how she can help. A man addresses President Sylvia, mentioning her recent activity in the newspaper. A woman suggests the caller did not just call to compliment her. Someone inquires about R&D team research into teleportation and Sylvia Walden's status. A woman expresses confusion and annoyance about someone's interest in her research director. A man responds with silence, conveying a sense of contemplation or disapproval. A president is warned to ensure a sensitive topic is not brought up during an upcoming board meeting. The woman dismisses the concern about her position, but is then surprised by a beep. Sylvia is informed that the other party has ended their phone call. The woman expresses her extreme annoyance with a sharp sound. Furious at the sudden disconnect, Sylvia realizes that an old corporate snake just called to check if his assassination attempt worked. Luckily, because the criminal was caught on sight, his hands are tied. Across the city, the mastermind behind the attack, Chairman David Graham, stews in anger. His subordinate points out that if the rogue machine had caused a massive disaster, Sylvia would have been ruined at the upcoming board meeting, but instead the media is praising her as a hero. Graham violently snaps at him to shut up, terrified someone might overhear that they orchestrated the entire hacking incident from the inside. Back at the penthouse, Sylvia pieces the conspiracy together. She reveals that David Graham, a powerful board member and CEO of Walden Construction, has to be the culprit. After checking the company's central system, she found zero traces of external hacking, meaning someone with top-level clearance bypassed her security to orchestrate a coup and steal her position as president. Unfortunately, all this corporate espionage sounds like absolute gibberish to her otherworldly guests, as the translation magic completely fails to process modern business jargon. Still, Sylvia brushes it off, confident that the captured pilot will give them all the leverage they need. Blow off some steam, Sylvia forces Emily into a makeshift fashion show. The dimensional mage is completely flustered by the modern outfits, nervously complaining that the skirts are way too short and revealing. Sylvia completely ignores her embarrassment, hyping her up and dragging a terrified Woojin into the chaos to try on clothes next. The god dragon might be fearless in battle, but a shopping spree with the CEO has him desperately faking a stomach ache to escape. While our heroes are playing dress-up, the real threat is making a move. Across the city, a heavily armed police convoy transports Peter, the corrupt mech pilot, to a maximum security prison. The guards mock the disgraced soldier for shaking in his boots, completely missing the point. Peter isn't terrified of going to a cell, he's terrified of the people coming to silence him. Right on cue, a swarm of black-clad bikers descends on the highway. The guards immediately sound the alarm, broadcasting a final warning to the mysterious executioners. But the bikers don't even flinch. Ignoring the threats, they accelerate straight into the convoy, kicking off a massive, high-speed shootout to bury Sylvia's only witness for good. The bikers swarm the highway, unleashing a barrage of explosives that completely annihilates the police escort. In a flash of fire and twisted metal, Peter is silenced forever, taking the truth about the rogue mech attack to his grave. Meanwhile, completely oblivious to the massacre, Sylvia is relaxing at her mansion with Woojin and Emily. When Emily asks why a billionaire CEO doesn't have a house full of servants, Sylvia admits that letting people close only leads to expectations and inevitable disappointment. Emily playfully teases that Sylvia is just terrified of getting hurt because she actually cares too much, leaving the brilliant CEO blushing and completely flustered. But the lighthearted moment shatters when Sylvia receives an emergency alert confirming her only witness was just murdered. Traffic cameras reveal the attackers were the Black Knights, an elite gang from the infamous Black Tower, a lawless, 5-kilometer criminal sanctuary where even the police refuse to step foot. It's ruled by a ruthless kingpin known as Pink Papa, and Sylvia is furious that her corporate rivals have dragged a full-blown criminal syndicate into their war, vowing to expose the mastermind. Across the city, Chairman David Graham is meeting with a representative from the Black Tower. Graham is irritated by the explosive spectacle on the highway, warning them that he doesn't want any more loud messes drawing attention to Walden Construction. But with the witness dead, Graham smiles, confirming that everything is perfectly in place for him to seize control at the upcoming board meeting. With the corporate war escalating, Sylvia needs her otherworldly bodyguards ready to blend in. She sits Woojin and Emily down for a crash course on modern Earth, explaining that their translation devices need a baseline understanding of the world to work properly. But when she boots up a cheerful children's educational hologram featuring a dancing cat mascot, the battle-hardened warriors instantly brace for combat, forcing a stressed-out Sylvia to scream at them to calm down and just watch the cartoon. Determined to strike first, Sylvia orders her AI assistant, Liz, to breach the company's network and pull the access logs surrounding Director Graham, vowing to slam the evidence of his treason right in the corrupt old man's face. But Graham is already 2 steps ahead, securing the loyalty of over half the board of directors while warning his allies to brace for Sylvia's inevitable counterattack. Returning to his luxurious estate, Graham's personal AI alerts him to an external hacking attempt, and he easily traces it back to Sylvia's home system. Instead of panicking, he just smirks, knowing his personal database is far too encrypted for her to ever crack. The next morning, Sylvia struts into the Walden Group headquarters exuding absolute confidence, though internally she is completely exhausted. She spent the entire night trying to penetrate Graham's secret server, but no matter what authority she used, the firewall wouldn't budge. Up on the balcony, one of Graham's subordinates gloats about their foolproof network system, accidentally letting a sensitive detail slip. Graham immediately shuts him down, warning the younger man that he despises people who can't keep their mouths shut. The highly anticipated board meeting finally begins, and Sylvia opens strong by presenting flawless financial data to prove the Walden Group is still thriving under her leadership. But Graham strikes immediately, teaming up with Director Bernstein to weaponize her recent clashes with the Black Tower. They argue that having their CEO constantly on the news for violent gang incidents is disastrous for the company's public image. Refusing to back down, Sylvia calls out the entire board for gossiping like cheap reporters instead of focusing on business. She reminds them that her personal problems have nothing to do with the company's profits, just like when they falsely blamed her father for his own death. Feigning concern, Graham suggests that if her personal life is so chaotic, she should temporarily step down from her position and take a vacation. To twist the knife, he casually brings up the recent mech hacking incident as proof of her instability. Flipping the script, Sylvia slams a file onto the table containing the final suspect list from her hacking investigation, directly asking Graham if he is tied to the attack. But the old snake doesn't even bat an eye. He smugly points out that her file is just a list of network connections, mocking her for trying to pin the crime on him without any hard evidence. Sylvia grits her teeth in frustration, desperately wanting to scream that she knows he hid all the evidence on his personal server. But she realizes that making that accusation would mean confessing to her own illegal hacking attempts, leaving her completely trapped unless she can somehow crack his database. Realizing she needs physical access to Graham's database, Sylvia plays the part of the defeated CEO. She bows her head and asks for a short recess, leaving the corrupt board members chuckling at her apparent surrender. At the moment she's out the door, she sprints down the hall and dials up her loyal hacker, Tommy. She orders him to exploit a temporary security flaw caused by the unified board meeting systems and trigger a fake fire alarm. Tommy panics, complaining that he didn't sign up for corporate terrorism, but a quick threat to his paycheck instantly gets him typing. At the exact same time, the hostile forces backing the takeover decide they are done playing corporate games. Realizing Sylvia won't go down quietly, they prepare to pull a violent trump card of their own. Meanwhile, with Sylvia fighting for her life in the boardroom, Woo Jin and Emily are left entirely to their own devices, eager to explore the city streets. Back at the Walden building, Tommy's hack goes through. Emergency sirens suddenly blare, ordering an immediate evacuation. The panicked executives rush for the exits, but Graham notices that Sylvia is suspiciously absent from the crowd. Using the chaos, Sylvia slips into a hidden terminal room right next to Graham's office, the only place his encrypted files can be accessed. But before she can pull the data, Graham steps out of the shadows. He sneers that her childish pranks won't work anymore and demands she resign, but a furious Sylvia snaps back that she will never surrender her father's legacy to a parasite who only cares about money. Their standoff is violently interrupted when a second, entirely real fire alert echoes through the building. The news broadcasts massive plumes of smoke erupting from the Walden skyscraper, leaving Tommy terrified at his monitors. He only hacked the alarm, meaning someone else just set the building on fire for real. Far away from the corporate warfare, Woo Jin and Emily are completely oblivious to the fact that their sponsor's headquarters is going up in flames. They were supposed to be studying modern Earth culture, but the god dragon is already bored out of his mind and decides it's time to slack off. However, their lazy afternoon is cut short when Emily catches a breaking news report. The Walden headquarters is engulfed in a massive fire and Sylvia is trapped inside. Realizing their billionaire sponsor might burn to a crisp, Woo Jin decides it's time to step up. He reminds Emily that Sylvia gave them access to her AI assistant Liz to help with anything they needed. Emily urgently orders the AI to teleport them to Sylvia's location, but the machine flat-out refuses. Liz states her strict programming dictates she must keep them safe inside the house no matter what happens outside. Woo Jin immediately threatens to smash the stubborn AI to pieces, forcing Emily to hold him back while she desperately pleads with the system, explaining that Sylvia is going to die. Before they can argue any further, a massive explosion rips through their sanctuary. The outer walls collapse, forcing Emily to quickly deploy her dimensional magic to shield them from the falling debris. Realizing this hostile takeover is now targeting them too, Woojin declares they're done playing by the AI's rules. They have to break out and save their sponsor themselves, even if they have absolutely no idea how to navigate this modern city. Meanwhile, inside the burning Walden building, Graham is violently smashing his keyboard, realizing every single communication line has been severed. Sylvia confirms their worst fears. This isn't just a fire, it's a total cyber siege. Graham refuses to believe their world-class security could be breached, but Sylvia knows that normal defenses mean nothing against an inside job. Trapped behind electronically sealed doors, Graham tries to assure her the room is heat-resistant, but Sylvia knows they're sitting ducks. Suddenly, a red-haired executive strolls into the room, claiming he came to rescue Graham, but Sylvia instantly connects the dots and exposes him as the traitor who hacked the power grid. Graham freezes in horror, realizing he was the one who lent this man his top-level ID credentials. Before Graham can even process his own fatal mistake, the traitor draws a weapon and guns him down in cold blood. As the corrupt board member collapses, the assassin sighs, complaining that Sylvia's sharp intuition forced his hand. He openly confesses to orchestrating the entire disaster, then shoves a horrified Sylvia aside. Keeping his gun leveled at the bleeding executive, the hitman casually prepares to explain exactly why he's burning their empire to the ground. A man in a suit interrogates another by grabbing his injured hand, pointing a gun. A closer view focuses on the bloody hand and a distinctive charm bracelet. A woman's intense gaze suggests she recognizes something significant. The speaker details director Graham's secure server system and his failed attempts to access it. The man explains that the bracelet he holds is the security chip for the server. The man's eyes turn red as he smirks, displaying the crucial charm bracelet. A character named Rex is apparently about to do something terrible. The man with red hair violently attacks another person, to the distress of a woman. The man begs Rex not to do something, while the woman tries to de-escalate the situation. The man observes the distressed man and woman from a distance, making a comment. The man with red hair implies that a valuable item is stored on a server. The man with red hair prepares to access the server, likely to steal information. The character screams in a moment of intense fear or distress. Or stylized white symbols against a black and blue background. A mysterious necklace with a blue charm is presented on a futuristic display. A woman reacts with a gulp, showing embarrassment or surprise. Baby is shown with its mouth open, making a loud vocalization. A woman reacts with surprise to a holographic image of a child, observed by a man. Baby laughs, surprising someone named Gil. A man named David is confused by instructions to hug a baby named Sylvia. The baby giggles and stands up, eliciting excitement from a man. A man reports to another man, asking about business or Sylvia. The girl excitedly calls for Dave and shows off a pretty necklace. The girl expresses her delight with the necklace, confirming she likes it. A man is shocked by a holographic display of a woman's face and a fallen body. A woman recalls a necklace pendant from her youth while looking at a holographic projection. The man examines holographic news articles featuring Sylvia Walden, appearing increasingly agitated. He desperately searches the news articles for financial information, growing frustrated. He finds no useful information in articles about Sylvia Walden's fashion and vacation plans. A young woman looks at the man with a shocked expression, calling him Ajashi. A woman questions a man who is lying on the floor, looking terrified. The man vehemently denies being a stalker and explains his past priorities. The man appears troubled while a woman observes him. The man emotionally reveals he considered Sylvia his daughter since she was a baby. He explains his desire to support her from the shadows in place of his deceased friend. The woman calls out to the man, her expression filled with emotion. The woman makes a comment about stalking, causing the man to react with distress. The man expresses his frustration and embarrassment over his perceived intentions. A man demands information, pointing a gun at another man in an office. The man with the gun demands to know where the money is hidden. The CEO explains that he had no money to hide, only debt to repay. The man is enraged by the explanation and threatens to shoot if he's being deceived. The man in a suit is shocked as he carries a woman upside down. Hey. WHA. The woman slams the man down, disarming him in the process. The man with bloody clothes is urged to grab the gun. The man on the ground cries out as his arms are held. The woman expresses satisfaction with her skills, while a smaller man protests. The scene opens in a dimly lit, futuristic parking garage. A stylish woman in a suit stands next to a sleek, futuristic car. The woman expresses concern that someone is late. The boss acknowledges the situation with a simple "I see." The boss reflects on being mistaken about someone's usefulness. A woman in a suit questions the cleanliness of the area. The scene shifts to a futuristic city with a highway. Cars travel on a complex highway system in the city. Man rides a motorcycle through the city. The biker is tearing down the highway when Woojin suddenly appears right in front of him, casually asking for Sylvia's location. The biker violently crashes in sheer panic while Emily catches up and scolds the god dragon for his terrible manners. Across the city, news feeds broadcast the massive fire at Walden Construction, reporting that rescue teams are completely locked out by the hijacked security system. Deciding to take matters into her own hands, Emily drops out of the sky right in front of a terrified civilian, demanding to know exactly where Sylvia is. Deep inside the burning headquarters, Sylvia orders the red-haired insider to shut down the hack. He just smirks, asking if she really thinks fixing the system will get them out alive. Down below, the firefighter mechs are suddenly ambushed in the smoke by figures with glowing red eyes. The assassin reveals the brutal truth: Pink Papa's elite death squad, the ghosts of the Black Tower, have finally entered the building. The ghosts completely obliterate the doors to Graham's office, tearing the room apart but find it entirely empty. Realizing the elevators are dead, the assassins deduce their prey took the stairs. With the building controls fried and communications totally jammed, the heavily armed strike team begins hunting them through the dark skyscraper. Hidden away, a bleeding Graham urges Sylvia to leave him behind, claiming he's only a burden and that she is the future of the Walden Group. But Sylvia flat-out refuses to abandon him, scolding the corrupt board member for suddenly acting so weak. Nearby, the restrained red-haired hacker groans that he never would have taken this job if he knew Graham's secret server data was complete garbage. Deeply offended, the dying Graham furiously screams that his treasure isn't trash and fires the assassin on the spot, proving to Sylvia he still has plenty of fight left. At that exact moment, Sylvia's earpiece crackles to life. Her AI assistant Liz finally breaks through the jamming with an urgent warning: Woojin and Emily have broken out of the safe house and are heading straight for the war zone. Sylvia panics. Having the god dragon on the loose is a nightmare, but she has a much more critical emergency right now. She orders Liz to send a rescue chopper to the roof, but Liz warns her that the raging fire and Pink Papa's Black Knights make the roof a death trap, before quickly patching her through to Tommy. Tommy immediately screams at his boss, demanding to know why she is currently dangling off the side of a burning skyscraper. When Sylvia asks how he knows, Tommy drops a bombshell. Her entire life-or-death struggle is currently being live-streamed by news drones to every screen in a saddle. And he isn't exaggerating. Miles away in a speeding car, Emily and Woojin watch the live feed of Sylvia clinging to the building. Woojin just shakes his head, muttering that there isn't a single day of peace when it comes to this woman. Back at headquarters, the corrupt director Bernstein whines about the company's plummeting image, but Liz shuts him down. She is utterly terrified that the two apex predators have escaped their cage, leaving Sylvia to curse everyone around her for being completely useless. Knowing the news drones will only draw more enemies to their exact position, Sylvia tries to figure out a way to shake the cameras without shooting them down. But before she can think of a plan, one of the drones is suddenly blown out of the sky by a massive explosion. As everyone accuses Sylvia of firing the shot, her earpiece gets hijacked by a chilling voice. Three cloaked figures hover just outside the glass, mocking her desperate escape attempt, while the captive red-haired assassin bursts into manic laughter. He reveals that Pink Papa's Black Knights have finally caught up to them. Refusing to surrender, Sylvia curses the assassin and orders her robotic sweeper machine into maximum overdrive. Graham and the captive scream in sheer terror as the mechanical rig rockets straight up the glass facade, smashing through the skyscraper's windows to dodge a barrage of energy blasts. It is a completely suicidal ascent. With fire raging below them and debris raining down from the shattered glass, Sylvia and her battered crew hold on for dear life as they blast their way toward the roof. The captive assassin is absolutely losing his mind. Dangling over a fiery drop, he screams that if he dies, they lose their only lead. But Sylvia couldn't care less about his panic. She knows the Black Knight's relentless pursuit is just a sick warning from Pink Papa, a message to either bow down or burn, but Sylvia isn't the type to bow. Pulling up her tablet, she checks in with her loyal hacker, Tommy, demanding to know how much of the building's outer wall system has been restored. The second he hits 82%, she executes her masterstroke. With a deafening mechanical grind, the skyscraper's massive window cleaning system roars to life, deploying an entire fleet of giant yellow spider bots across the glass facade. Sylvia glares down at the elite death squad and challenges them to a race to the top. The Black Knights are mildly amused as the massive cleaning mechs swarm toward them. Down on the streets, the news anchors report absolute chaos. With drone feeds mysteriously cut, the public can only watch as massive robotic parts rain down from the burning skyscraper, completely blocking the firefighters. Up on the glass, the cleaning bots are being shredded to pieces by the Knights. The captive assassin screams at Sylvia to give up, crying that window washers can't stop elite killers. But the robots were never meant to win, they were just a distraction. The moment her team confirms the building's core system is fully purged of the enemy hack, Sylvia slams the execution key. She activates the building's Iron Curtain protocol, instantly deploying heavy fire suppression systems and sealing the lower floors. Trapped behind the blast doors, the Black Knights finally realize they've been played, and immediately change course to hunt her down on the roof. Sylvia's battered crew finally breaches the rooftop, stepping out into the pouring rain. Graham regains consciousness to find they've actually survived the impossible climb, while their captive assassin, Rex, has been tightly gagged just to shut him up. Sylvia tells her wounded board member to hold on for just 5 more minutes until their extraction chopper arrives. Staring death in the face has a way of bringing up the past. Graham looks at Sylvia with tears in his eyes and offers a desperate, long-overdue apology. He isn't sorry for passing out during the fight, he's sorry for abandoning her when her father died. He confesses that losing his best friend broke him, and he threw himself entirely into saving Walden construction just to keep from falling apart, completely blind to how much it hurt a grieving young Sylvia. It might be too late to fix their fractured bond, but as they wait for rescue on a burning roof, he just needed her to know the truth. She admits she was mistaken about someone, implying a change of heart or perspective. She reflects on how someone cared for her, linking it to a presidential change and media appearances. She expresses gratitude to an older man, calling him Ajashi. The older man addresses a woman named Sylvia. She demands that he delete everything on his server, to which he reluctantly agrees. He shows a look of surprise or alarm. Ka-uongenus. Rescue helicopter is announced as arriving. Someone is told they need to leave, as injured people are helped. Ka-wagwakwainus. A woman and an old man appear worried as it rains. A man asks another if they want to get tea, calling their meeting a coincidence. A bald man is apologetically telling a woman that he has something to do. The bald man looks surprised and asks if she has something to do. A man in a black jacket dramatically kicks the bald man. The man who kicked the bald man is out of breath and frustrated. The blonde woman calls out to the man, telling him to follow her. The woman, the man in the black jacket, and the bald man are near a car. A person questions if the outing was a date with a boyfriend. A person's face is shown with a speech bubble containing the words, "but still." Why would they have a date in a place like this? Are they perverts? A skyscraper is engulfed in flames during a dramatic twilight scene. The scene opens on a high-tech facility with soldiers and advanced machinery visible. A scared woman and man are confronted by menacing, hooded figures who speak of Sylvia. A masked man struggles while a woman reassures an older man before making noise. A detailed shot focuses on the glowing, robotic leg of an approaching figure. A group of armored, menacing figures with glowing red accents approach, one questioning something. A crowd is held back by security outside a WALDEN building, while Miss Sylvia Walden's status is unknown. A man in a baseball cap and orange shirt looks surprised. 3 characters stand in front of a blurred background with bright lights. One man urges the other to move, stating they are here to save Sylvia. The panel depicts 2 men facing each other amidst an intense atmosphere. Sylvia reveals she set an explosive booby trap. A spacecraft appears in the sky as a woman reacts with alarm. She urgently instructs Liz to land the helicopter nearby. The woman encourages the injured man to keep moving forward. Large stylized Korean lettering against a dramatic sky. Mysterious object or event is observed in the sky. Explosions and debris on a futuristic landing platform. The spacecraft is being taken apart above a city. The woman reacts with extreme distress to an unfolding event. Man tells a woman that escape is no longer possible. A group of hooded figures appear in a fiery landscape, with one mentioning Sylvia Walden. An explosion is heard, causing panic and a command for people to step back. A man and woman stand in a city, with the woman asking if Sylvia is all right. A security guard confronts a man and a woman who state they must check for themselves. A security guard threatens to arrest a young man for causing a commotion. One man observes something falling from the sky. The other man questions the statement about something falling. Large dramatic Korean sound effect text. People in the crowd react with shock and fear. Panic ensues as people are told to move. 3 individuals run from the danger. Out on the streets, absolute chaos erupts as Woojin literally swats the extraction helicopter right out of the sky with his bare hands, sending flaming debris crashing into the Walden building. As the dust settles, our god dragon steps out of the wreckage, completely drained of his strength and wondering if he's been slacking on his meditation. But before he can catch his breath, a swarm of shocked reporters surrounds him, demanding to know how a human just punched a chopper out of the air. Just as the panicked crowd closes in, Emily steps up and unleashes an empty dream spell. In an instant, the entire mob collapses to the pavement, fast asleep and their memories wiped. She explains she memorized the magic just in case, remembering Sylvia's strict orders to keep a low profile. But as Woojin tries to wrap his head around her dimensional mage terminology, they spot the burning wreckage of the Walden helicopter and realize they are running out of time. Worst betrayal always comes from the inside. Up on the roof, the situation has completely flipped as Rex, the red-haired insider they had captive, breaks free and stands shoulder to shoulder with the elite Black Knights. Looking down at a bloodied Graham and a cornered Sylvia, he smugly reveals the Black Tower's true objective, Sylvia's highly coveted R&D corporation. Since she refused to sell it, Rex advised the tower to just wipe her out instead, even trying to negotiate a cut of Sylvia's other companies for himself. But our CEO fiercely refuses to hand over a single thing. Retaliating, Rex viciously strikes Sylvia and stomps on the wounded Graham, claiming it's payback for them nearly breaking his arms earlier. He then steps back and warns Sylvia that the ruthless Black Knights will chop off her fingers one by one until he signs over the rights. Unbroken, Sylvia just spits in defiance, refusing to bow to their threats, which only makes the sadistic assassin smile even wider as the Knights step forward to begin the torture. Rex eagerly waits to watch Sylvia get tortured, but the Black Knight leader suddenly receives a direct transmission from their boss, Pink Papa. Plans have changed. But before Sylvia can even process this, the Knights unleash a brutal laser blast, striking David Graham right in front of her. Blood splatters across Sylvia's face as the remorseful board member collapses to the roof, using his final breath to call out her name. Armored Leader informs her that Pink Papa is coming to negotiate a new deal personally, granting her a temporary stay of execution. He vows to make her pay with interest once the ink is dry, but Sylvia just tightens her grip on a bloodied blade and dares him to try. She refuses to cower anymore. Ever since her father passed away, she promised herself she would become an iron wall to protect his dream, and she isn't about to let the Walden group fall to a bunch of armored thugs. The Knight leader scoffs at her false bravado, but before he can finish his threat, a booming voice echoes across the rooftop, calling out Sylvia's name. The assassins look around in confusion, trying to pinpoint the source, while Sylvia's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. Dropping from the sky like a meteor, Gang Woojin crashes onto the roof right in the middle of the elite death squad. While the Black Knights freeze, completely bewildered by this sudden intruder, the God Dragon casually turns to Sylvia and asks if she's alright. Still completely paralyzed by shock, Sylvia can barely stammer out a sentence, demanding to know how on earth he just jumped all the way up here. Sylvia is completely dumbfounded to see Emily standing there too. Woojin casually jokes that climbing a skyscraper barehanded shouldn't be that surprising, before tossing aside an unconscious guard he picked up on his way up. Assuming she's mad that they left the safe house, Woojin starts to apologize for acting out of line to save her. But instead of scolding them, Sylvia completely breaks down, throwing her arms around both of them and sobbing uncontrollably in sheer relief. Woojin gently tries to calm her down, but his expression instantly darkens when he spots the fresh, bloody cut on her neck. Realizing the Black Knights dared to harm her, his eyes narrow with pure murderous intent. Before he can act, the assassins blitz him, landing a brutal, coordinated strike. Sylvia screams his name in pure horror while the Knights scoff, thinking they just instantly executed the sudden intruder. But their smugness vanishes when the smoke clears. Their blades didn't even leave a scratch on his skin. The God Dragon just flashes a sinister grin, completely unfazed by their ultimate attack. He turns back to reassure Sylvia, but immediately gets a massive, comical nosebleed after catching a glimpse of her torn clothes and exposed chest. Panicking, Sylvia thinks his bleeding is from a fatal internal wound and begs him to fall back. Embarrassed, Woojin quickly hands her over to Emily, who dryly reassures Sylvia that the pervert's vitals are perfectly fine. Stepping up to the bewildered assassins, Woojin cracks his neck and praises them for actually managing to ruin his shirt. Realizing they are dealing with a monster, the Black Knights immediately shift into a high-level tactical sword formation. They unleash a relentless barrage of glowing red blades, but Woojin just smirks with excitement and charges straight into the deadly storm of steel. Woojin shatters their elite formation with a single explosive punch, sending one of the heavily armored assassins flying across the room. The rest of the Black Knights freeze in absolute shock, unable to even track his movements. Realizing they are facing a true martial arts master, the downed assassin recovers and launches a desperate counterattack. Woojin eagerly invites them to show off their skills, and the two clash in a blinding midair flurry of kicks and glowing red blades. As the other assassins and the girls watch the shockwaves tear through the area, the lead knight suddenly stops and praises Woojin's monstrous mastery. Her helmet retracts to reveal a young woman underneath, but before Woojin can process that, she drops a bombshell by asking if he is the legendary Gang Woojin. Smiling in relief that she survived the clash, the female knight admits they made a massive miscalculation by not predicting he would be guarding Sylvia. Knowing they are completely outmatched, she immediately issues a full retreat under Pink Papa's direct orders, and her loyal subordinates bow in compliance. Woojin is absolutely furious that they dare to turn their backs on him mid-fight, but the knight throws out the ultimate bait. She points out that they are using blade auras and sword formations, and tells the enraged God Dragon that if he wants to know how this futuristic world is connected to the Murim, the answers lie waiting for him inside the Black Tower. As the assassins vanish into the shadows, a sinister smirk spreads across Woojin's face. He stares up at the massive, looming skyscraper, finally realizing this world holds a deep, dark secret, while Sylvia just sighs in massive relief that they survived the night. As the dust settles, Sylvia is amazed to see Emily casually using her dimensional magic to completely heal Director Bernstein's fatal sword wound. The old man wakes up completely bewildered, thinking he's died and gone to heaven when he sees Sylvia standing over him. To make things even weirder, Emily suddenly starts acting like an adorable catgirl, meowing at the end of every sentence. Sylvia instantly cringes, realizing the mage picked up the habit from some anime videos she showed her, while Bernstein just blushes like a total schoolboy. But Woojin cuts the comedy short, demanding to know how to infiltrate the Black Tower. Sylvia calls him absolutely insane for wanting to march straight into the Devil's Den, but our hero points out that the female assassin explicitly mentioned his past in the harem. Meanwhile, that exact female leader regroups with her squad, completely unfazed by their retreat. When her men apologize for failing to kill the CEO, she smirks and reveals that their explosive fight with Woojin was nothing but a massive decoy to grab the city's attention. Back at the scene, a chill runs down Sylvia's spine as she processes Woojin's words, realizing that absolutely nobody in this futuristic world should know anything about the god dragon's true origins. The worst traps always spring when you're looking the wrong way. Right on cue, Sylvia gets a frantic, terrified call from her loyal hacker, Tommy. He screams that while the news was distracted by Woojin's battle, a separate squad of Black Knights led by a writer named Ark raided the Walden Research Lab. Ark escorts a massive convoy of stolen trucks, confirming their dark mission is a total success, and leaving Sylvia screaming into her earpiece as her entire team of researchers is kidnapped right out from under her. Inside the stolen convoy, Tommy desperately uses a wall-mounted emergency comms line to reach Sylvia, warning her that the Black Knights confiscated their phones. But before he can finish, a hulking robotic guard discovers him, smashing the terminal to pieces as Sylvia screams his name into dead air. Realizing her team is trapped, Sylvia is crushed by guilt. She knows the Black Tower is specifically targeting her dangerous, unauthorized teleportation research, and she just dragged her innocent staff right into the crossfire. Woojin and Emily quickly snap her out of her spiral, reminding her that her people are running out of time. Pulling herself together, Sylvia orders a backup helicopter to their location and tells the newly healed Director Bernstein to use it to escape. He frantically protests, warning her that going after the Black Knights will just turn her into another hostage, but Sylvia refuses to back down. She isn't running away, she's going to take back exactly what belongs to her. Turning to Woojin and Emily, Sylvia lays all her cards on the table. The machine the Black Tower stole is the exact same device that pulled the two of them into this dimension, meaning they need it just as badly as she does. Hearing this, the god dragon doesn't hesitate for a second, flashing a wild grin and declaring it a chivalrous honor to fight for the woman who saved them, while Emily pledges her full magical support. Meanwhile, the Black Knight convoy leader, Ark, learns about the secret distress call. While her grunts laugh off the idea of a squishy CEO fighting back, Ark warns them to brace for impact, knowing Sylvia is coming for blood. And she's right. Sylvia's crew is already tailing the stolen trucks from a stealth ship, racing to intercept them before they cross into enemy territory. Woojin casually suggests just storming the Black Tower head-on, earning him a swift scolding from Emily for acting like a brainless meathead. Sylvia explains that a frontal assault is pure suicide. The Black Tower isn't just a building. It's an impenetrable fortress guarded by a massive dome-shaped laser grid that instantly vaporizes anyone without clearance. Woojin arrogantly wonders if his legendary blade body could tank the lasers, but Sylvia shoots him a deadpan glare and assures him he would be instantly incinerated. They have to ambush the convoy on the highway, or the hostages are gone forever. Closing in on their target, Sylvia spots the stolen trailer guarded by 6 elite hoverbikes. She outlines a precise tactical strike. Woojin and Emily will drop down and silently eliminate the 2 rear guards, giving her an opening to hack the transport's navigation and reroute the hostages back home. Naturally, Woojin wants to just dive bomb the front and smash everything in sight, but Sylvia instantly shuts down his reckless bravado. One stray blast could wipe out her entire kidnapped team, and she isn't leaving a single employee behind. Sylvia starts mapping out a quiet, careful infiltration, but mid-sentence, a high-yield anti-air missile locks right onto their stealth ship. Before she can even process the threat, the warhead slams into the hull, ripping their transport to shreds in a blinding explosion. Down below, the Black Knight convoy's heavy mech confirms the kill, while Ark scoffs at the idea of ordinary civilians trying to play hero. But she has absolutely no idea who she just shot out of the sky. Amidst the flaming wreckage plummeting toward the city, Woojin free-falls with Sylvia safely in his arms, cursing these modern cowards for striking without a formal warning. Emily realizes she detected the ambush a split second too late, but Woojin had instantly thrown himself in front of the blast to protect them. Even with Emily casting a defensive Kai barrier to shield them, the god dragon's legendary impervious body still took a nasty, bleeding gash to the back. Ignoring the pain, Woojin roars that it's time for some payback, only to completely panic when he realizes Sylvia is unresponsive. Emily calmly assures him the CEO just fainted from the shock of the explosion. Telling the injured martial artist not to push himself, the dimensional mage hops onto her staff and flies ahead to clear the road herself. Meanwhile, Ark radios her rear guard to maintain high alert, but the Black Knight bikers escorting the stolen Walden truck report that the highway is dead quiet. Their peace doesn't last long. One of the bikers suddenly spots a girl floating toward them on a wooden staff, and before his partner can even accuse him of being high on the job, Emily unleashes a devastating explosive barrage right into the convoy. The bikers barely have time to process the girl floating in the sky before Emily unleashes her magic. She casts a binding spell, hurling a glowing orb of woven threads that detonates into a massive explosion, swallowing the vanguard whole. Panic ripples through the convoy. The surviving Black Knights deploy their heavy artillery, firing massive laser cannons from the cargo trucks to shoot her down. But Emily is way too fast, weaving through the barrage of lasers, though the rapid casting is clearly taking a toll on her stamina. Just as she catches her breath, a giant spider-like mech armed with a red energy sword lunges at her for the kill. Emily doesn't even flinch, summoning the mirrors of Banton and blasting the mechanical monstrosity with a beam of pure energy that shatters it into a million screaming pieces. Up at the front of the convoy, Ark realizes they have a serious problem. With his rear guard's comms suddenly going dark, the Black Knight leader orders the trucks to slow down so he can investigate. But before he can step off the front line, his superior overrides the command. The mysterious female boss tells Ark to keep his eyes on delivering the stolen tech, declaring that she'll handle this little pest herself. Listening to her trapped men report about a magical web they've never seen before, she quickly realizes they aren't dealing with a standard corporate strike team. Meanwhile, Sylvia finally regains consciousness. Blinking up at Emily's glowing aura, the CEO briefly thinks she died and went to heaven until the mage snaps her back to reality. Woo-jin checks on her as they ride atop a massive piece of debris from their ruined ship, and a flustered Sylvia realizes they're still in the fight. But her relief vanishes the second she looks at the horizon. The ominous black tower is already looming dangerously close. Knowing they're heading straight into the enemy's stronghold, Sylvia rushes to hotwire their makeshift transport and change their trajectory. While she works, Woo-jin is quietly struggling. He's panting heavily, clutching his chest as a dark realization hits him. Even without meditating, his internal Kai has never drained this rapidly before, and he knows something is seriously wrong with his body. Emily notices Woo-jin struggling and offers to heal his back, but the stubborn martial artist brushes her off, bragging that his impervious blade body will recover with a little meditation. Realizing he has no idea what mana even is, Emily figures out that he's been unconsciously fusing raw mana with his physical strength to create his unique Kai. But before they can figure out his energy drain, a massive enemy mech lunges at them. Nearby, Sylvia is frantically trying to hack the convoy's navigation to steer them away from the Black Tower's territory, only for a sudden, violent impact to rock her transport. The convoy launches a brutal sneak attack, sending debris flying in every direction. Emily and Woo-jin brace themselves against the blast, with Woo-jin furiously complaining that getting ambushed while distracted is a terrible way to greet someone in this world. The real threat finally touches down, Ark's mysterious boss. Dropping from the sky in her high-tech armored suit, she slams a massive mechanical arm onto the ruins and corners Sylvia, threatening to execute the CEO if Woo-jin and Emily try anything funny. Sylvia isn't just a corporate suit. She confidently pulls up a holographic interface and smirks, revealing she already flipped the transport cars to manual mode. Before the commander can react, Sylvia orders the massive transport vehicle, Athena, to attack, sending a colossal mechanical arm swinging right into the boss and launching her through the air in a fiery explosion. Dusting herself off, Sylvia warns her team that the element of surprise is gone. If they want to survive, they need to break out with brute force before the convoy drags them straight into the heart of the Black Tower. Meanwhile, inside the lead convoy vehicle, Tommy and the captured researchers are getting roughed up by the guards. They actually joke that working for the ruthless Black Tower might be safer than dealing with Sylvia's crazy illegal experiments, until Sylvia suddenly hacks into their monitor, threatening to leave them behind if they keep talking trash. Realizing their boss actually came to save them, the hostages are ecstatic, but their relief turns to panic when Sylvia tells them to brace for a massive impact. A character wearing a helmet questions someone, appearing surprised or angry. A woman in a combat suit is identified as a threat, and a warning is given about her location. A directive is given to retrieve technology and return it to the Black Tower, regardless of the circumstances. A man is visibly distressed and tries to halt something urgently. Passengers in a vehicle demand an explanation for their current actions, while one person refuses to provide it. A woman shouts a dire warning about reaching the laser shield proximity range at their current speed. A character assures their boss they are nearing the laser shield proximity range. The character continues, explaining what happens when they reach the range. Character plummets through the air above a city. The armored character begins to speak, reacting to something unseen. Character with long red ribbons falls through the night sky. A man's intense expression suggests recognition or a grim realization. Character shouts a command as a large object descends from the sky. Ko'ainus. Character in a futuristic suit surveys the chaotic scene ahead. The suited character observes the destruction from within a vehicle. Closer view of the massive metallic structure is shown. The robot is crushed under the falling structure as a character prepares to fire. Someone screams in surprise as they witness an event unfolding. Ko'quediduinus. Ko'tainus. Ko'kainus. Ko'hienus. Ko'hienus. White Japanese text with sharp edges against a yellow background. A woman lets out a frustrated growl. White Korean text with sharp edges against a dark background with sparks. White Korean text with sharp edges over a crashing truck and robot. The woman gasps in surprise. Someone asks if everyone is safe, while another questions the president's actions. The man expresses relief that they managed to stop something, but sounds exhausted. A woman checks on a man who appears to be injured or exhausted after a recent event. The man's strained expression suggests he is in pain or discomfort. A large robot is shown near a damaged structure, with two figures observing the scene. A distant group of vehicles is observed approaching, raising questions. A mysterious armored figure with a glowing red sword confronts the protagonists. The man questions Cuckoo's awareness, implying he will reveal something important to them. The dialogue suggests an encounter with a formidable entity, perhaps a robot or guardian. A commanding figure questions the protagonist's presence in a specific, possibly dangerous location. The man confirms he was invited to the Black Tower, shifting the narrative's focus. The woman sighs, acknowledging the situation, as more figures and a large robot appear. The woman sarcastically offers a welcoming ceremony, hinting at a hostile reception. Three characters in a dark, ruined environment with sound effects. A protagonist and a companion stand in a street surrounded by enemies. Male character expresses his gratitude with a sinister grin. Female character questions when the main battle will begin. Mysterious hand with an artifact approaches a worried woman. The scene shows a confrontation in a street with various combatants. A tense moment between two individuals in a cold, possibly hazardous environment. Both characters seem taken aback by an unseen event or statement. A violent confrontation unfolds around an overturned vehicle, with multiple combatants. A brief, calm interlude as two characters observe the aftermath of an event. A character expresses confusion about a sudden change in the situation. Man questions something with a thoughtful expression. Kotubahinus kotubahinus. He notices several figures in the distance. Mysterious figure stands in the fog. Woman questions who she is seeing. She contemplates something with a pensive expression. The tense standoff on the ruined highway grinds to a sudden halt as a mysterious man in a sharp suit steps out of the fog. He casually sizes up the group, asking which one of them goes by the ridiculous nickname Pink Papa. But he isn't here for the Black Tower's boss. Locking eyes with Wu Jin, the man breaks into an unsettling, psychopathic smile, boasting that fate must want to see the conclusion of their legendary battle across time and space. Wu Jin freezes in absolute horror as the suited man finally introduces himself as I am Hotten, the ruthless leader of the demonic sect. That name alone is enough to trigger an explosive reaction. Wu Jin's aura violently erupts into the night sky, sending terrifying shockwaves that leave Emily, Sylvia, and even the enemy commander staring in pure disbelief. The greatest rivalry in Muram history has just crashed straight into the modern world. The two martial arts titans instantly collide. The sheer impact of their fists meeting triggers a massive, blinding explosion, blasting the armored convoy guards and Emily backward as fiery energy completely obliterates the rest of the urban landscape. When the dust finally settles, Wu Jin is completely thrown off, refusing to believe his sworn enemy is this old man standing before him. But Hotten drops a terrifying truth bomb. While hardly any time has passed for the god dragon, it has been exactly 20 years since Hotten arrived in this dimension. As Hotten steps forward, bathing the highway in a terrifying purple aura, he asks if Wu Jin still doubts his identity. The sheer pressure of his energy leaves Emily and the others paralyzed with fear, while Wu Jin's allies warn him that facing this monster in his exhausted state is absolute suicide. But before Wu Jin can make a move, one of the Black Knight cyborgs launches a sneak attack. Our hero easily deflects it, scoffing at how nobody in this new dimension has any martial arts ethics, as the armored soldiers completely surround the group. Female commander named Felicity tells Hotten, who they all call Pink Papa, that his troops can handle the intruders for him. But Wujin just bursts out laughing. He tells the old man that there's no way he's the real demonic sect leader, because the real Hotten would never willingly go by a perverted nickname like Pink Papa. When the confused cyborgs ask what's wrong with the name, Wujin happily offers to explain exactly what it means back in their home world. That completely shatters Hotten's pride. Screaming the god dragon's name in absolute rage, the demonic sect leader unleashes a catastrophic shockwave of purple energy to shut him up. Wujin screams for everyone to dodge as the apocalyptic blast obliterates the highway, forcing our hero to tank the explosion head-on while cursing the old man for trying to destroy the entire place. When the smoke finally clears, the surviving Black Knights are left trembling in horror, realizing they are trapped between two absolute monsters. Hotten smirks, impressed that Wujin is going all out from the start, as the god dragon stands bare-chested in the center of a massive crater, battered but very much alive. Seeing Wujin panting, Felicity tries to order her troops to finish him off, but Hotten instantly shuts her down. Flaring his murderous aura, the demonic sect leader declares this a sacred one-on-one duel, swearing to brutally execute anyone who dares to interfere. Hotten's purple mana surges to terrifying new heights. Watching the villain's monstrous energy spike, Emily can barely hide her shock. Wujin immediately orders Emily to fall back as well. Staring down his sworn enemy, our hero finally admits that despite the 20-year age gap, it really is Hotten standing in front of him. But he makes it crystal clear, this fight is about his pride and it's far more important than his own life. Glowing with his own fierce red aura, Wujin swears he won't accept a single drop of help, even if it means dying right here. Though Emily can't comprehend his stubborn martial arts honor, she agrees to stay back and shield herself from the impending bloodbath. As Hotten's explosive power forces the elite Black Knights to gulp in fear, the demonic sect leader gloats, asking if Wujin finally recognizes his true identity. But our hero just smirks and hits him with the ultimate disrespect, joking that he finally realizes Hotten just turned into a massive pervert in his old age. Furious, Hotten growls that Wujin still has a unique talent for pissing people off, swearing that today is the last time he'll ever run his mouth. Meanwhile, Tommy and the rest of the captive IT team are still strapped inside the hostage transport. They finally manage to reconnect their comms with Sylvia, crying out for rescue. But seeing the apocalyptic clash outside, Sylvia awkwardly tells them they're actually safer locked inside the van and promises to save them later. Before Tommy can even process being left behind, massive shockwaves violently rock their transport. Watching the two titans collide, Sylvia realizes this battle is infinitely worse than when Wujin first arrived in this dimension. Even the Black Knights are completely paralyzed, terrified to realize that Wujin is a monster on the exact same dimension-shattering level as their boss. Turns out, Hotten had been waiting for this exact moment. He reveals that he recognized Wujin's aura the second Sylvia's company pulled him through the dimensional rift. Even after 20 years of ruling the underworld, Hotten believes the god dragon crossed time and space for one single reason: to finish their unresolved deathmatch. Hotten vows to slaughter anyone who dares interrupt them and immediately launches himself at the god dragon. The two titans collide with enough force to level the surrounding city blocks, sending shockwaves of pure destructive energy tearing through the streets. As the dust settles, Wujin stands amidst the rubble, catching his breath. He realizes his old rival hasn't actually grown any stronger over the last 20 years, but something is deeply wrong. An unnatural, suffocating aura radiates from the demonic sect leader. Before Wujin can pinpoint the anomaly, Hotten erupts with a blinding surge of corrupted purple energy. The villain unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes, and this bizarre new power completely overwhelms our hero, violently launching the god dragon through multiple concrete buildings. Miles away, Sylvia watches the destruction and realizes the brawl is pushing dangerously close to the Black Tower. She warns the group that the fortress is protected by an automated laser shield that ignores Hotten's affiliates, but if it detects an outsider like Wujin, it will mercilessly obliterate him. Hearing that this supposed honorable deathmatch is totally rigged, Emily refuses to sit back and watch her friend get executed. But as she and Sylvia prepare to rush in, Felicity and her heavily armed Black Knights block their path, swearing to slaughter anyone who disrespects their leader's sacred duel. But blind loyalty means nothing against true magic. Realizing they have no choice but to force their way through, Emily doesn't even hesitate, instantly summoning a massive barrage of magical arrows to wipe out the armored guards. Magical barrage slams into the Black Knights with devastating force, shattering their energy barriers in an instant. Felicity is sent flying, coughing up blood as she hits the ground hard. Gasping for air, the commander can barely comprehend where this outsider got such overwhelming firepower, desperately crying out for her Pink Papa as her entire squad is wiped out. But Hotten has his own problems to worry about. Back at the main battlefield, Wujin finally flips the script, stepping inside Hotten's guard and unleashing a devastating punch that sends the demonic sect leader rocketing straight through a skyscraper. As the rubble clears, panic sets into Hotten's eyes when he realizes his internal energy isn't circulating properly. Looking down at the battered sect leader, Wujin coldly states that he has become hopelessly weak and declares an end to their duel. With a massive surge of his own purple aura, the god dragon erupts into a blinding explosion of power, completely obliterating the remaining city blocks and burying Hotten under tons of concrete. Landing gracefully in the crater, Wujin shakes his head at his opponent's ignorance. He reveals a fatal flaw Hotten missed. The atmospheric energy in this modern dimension is incredibly thin compared to their home in Murim. Because Hotten relies purely on passive absorption instead of actual meditation, he's been burning through his internal reserves without replenishing them. Wujin tells the foolish sect leader that the moment his stored energy runs dry, his martial arts will become completely useless. Disappointed that he couldn't even get a proper duel out of this clash, Wujin simply turns his back and walks away. But Hotten's pride won't let it end there. Battered and enraged, he screams at Wujin for daring to turn his back in the middle of a fight, swearing to kill him for exposing such a blatant weak point. Glancing over his shoulder, Wujin is genuinely surprised the man can still stand after taking a direct hit. He warns Hotten that the battle is already over, offering to spare his life since there are no magical cliffs in this world to grant him a miraculous second chance. But as Wujin promises to end his life if he takes one more step, Hotten just spits blood and flashes a twisted, cruel smile. Refusing to accept Wujin's pity, Hotten laughs in his face. From the sidelines, Sylvia and Emily scream at Wujin to stop, warning him that they've crossed into the base's automated laser shield parameters and didn't come here for a fair duel. But Hotten isn't listening. Wondering where Felicity is and how these rats made it this far, the demonic sect leader orders his men back. Resolving to put his life on the line, he gathers every last drop of his remaining kai into his fists for one final, desperate strike. Wujin warns him one last time, stepping forward to meet the attack head-on. But before their fists can clash, the base's automated defenses activate, plunging the battlefield into absolute chaos. A massive explosion rocks the area, and a devastating blast rips through the crossfire, tearing a bloody hole straight through one of the combatants. Caught in the deadly barrage, Sylvia desperately pilots her white mech into the sky, but the defense system's blue energy beams instantly lock onto her. She dodges frantically, but a direct hit obliterates the mech's right leg. Spiraling out of control, Sylvia braces for the end until Emily steps up. The dimensional mage unleashes a massive magical barrier, completely shielding the damaged mech from the laser barrage. Watching from the ground, Hotten is baffled, instantly realizing her magic is completely abnormal and definitely not a martial arts technique. Chuckling at Wujin's insane luck to survive the trap, Hotten flares his purple aura, deciding to use this opening to finish them off. But just then, Felicity stumbles onto the battlefield. Battered and out of breath from her fight with Emily, she rushes over, relieved that her pink papa is safe. Hotten is stunned to see her torn armor, but Felicity blushes and brushes it off as a mere scratch, claiming she just underestimated the maid. Though he scolds her for being foolish enough to lose, his tone is protective, ordering her to step back and watch as he finally wipes these rats out for good. Hotten gathers his dark energy, declaring that he alone decides when this battle is over. But Felicity steps in, warning him that he's burning way too much kai and needs to save his strength for their true objective. Realizing she has a point, Hotten chuckles and admits he just got a little too excited. Looking out at the endless barrage of laser fire, he decides to let the base's automated defenses finish the job for him. Down in the blast zone, Emily and Sylvia are barely holding on. Emily reveals her mana is completely bottoming out against the relentless barrage, and the moment she moves, her magic circle will collapse and vaporize them instantly. Panic sets in as Sylvia realizes they are sitting ducks just waiting to die. Refusing to go out like this, Sylvia hatches a desperate plan. She orders Emily to expand the shield size, even though it will drain the last of her mana in seconds. As Emily pushes her magic to the absolute limit, catching the villains off guard, Sylvia fires up her mech's main boosters to maximum output. Sylvia screams for Emily to brace for impact as the giant robot launches them straight through the laser grid. It's absolute chaos. Explosions tear through the mech's armor as Sylvia pushes the machine to its breaking point, desperately tanking the heavy fire until they finally crash land outside the blast radius. Felicity is completely stunned that they actually survived the kill zone, but Hotten just smirks, claiming he knew the god dragon's allies wouldn't go down that easily. When Felicity tries to call in backup, Hotten immediately shuts her down, flaring his aura and declaring that he's going to end this himself. Meanwhile, Sylvia drags herself from the smoking wreckage of her mech, coughing but thrilled to be alive. Her celebration is cut short, however, when a terrified Emily warns her that the nightmare isn't over. Hotten is already charging up his next deadly strike. Emily is caught performing some kind of ritual with a magical book. Kakuoenus. Man with glowing eyes questions his opponent's next move. The man declares it's too late as he unleashes a powerful attack. Bright energy blast erupts, engulfing the area. A woman expresses extreme fear and disbelief, suggesting an impending disaster. A powerful energy blast erupts, causing widespread destruction and chaos. A character's menacing gaze suggests their involvement or awareness of the event. Amidst the destruction, a woman questions what just happened, while a man observes grimly. A woman questions the sudden disappearance of something or someone after the explosion. A woman in a suit reacts with fear to an approaching, aggressive figure. The man wonders if the technique used is an illusion or an unknown martial art. The man realizes the woman possesses a power he did not anticipate. He reflects on the strange martial arts she employed, showing his discomfort. The man coughs violently, and the woman expresses concern for him. The woman checks on the man, asking if he is okay after the incident. A woman in a futuristic suit is grabbed, looking shocked. He yells at her, insisting he's fine, despite her concern about his energy expenditure. The man yells, grabbing the woman's face, who calls him Pink Papa. Woman reacts with shock, her eyes wide. He reflects on how someone always gets stronger whenever he tries to get rid of them. He tells her he's going ahead and leaving the rest to her. The scene opens on a desolate, cratered landscape, hinting at a destructive past or event. A character in advanced armor surveys a desolate, rocky terrain. The woman's expression suggests distress or surprise as she utters Pink Papa. A bleak landscape, the remnants of civilization, stretches out under a somber sky. A formidable rat emerges from the trash, its presence unsettling. A sudden attack leaves a rat injured on the ground, its squeal of pain echoing. Bare feet stand over the fallen creature, hinting at a confrontation. A child, appearing lost and dirty, cradles a rat with surprising affection. The child's expression shifts to surprise, their wide eyes reflecting an unexpected emotion. A young person surveys a vast landfill under an ominous, fiery sky. A robed figure kneels amidst glowing embers, appearing to be in distress. A character expresses frustration about an unresolved conclusion, then questions something. A character with a purple ponytail faces a desolate landscape of garbage and mist. The character expresses shock and confusion, questioning their surroundings. A woman questions if she has died and gone to hell after a single strike. She ponders her situation with a perplexed expression. She surveys a vast, desolate landscape resembling a garbage dump. A young girl with an astonished expression is shown. Her eyes widen in surprise as she looks around. Two characters are left alone in a ruined, smoky wasteland. One character asks the other about their current location. The child looks distressed and bewildered by their surroundings. The child looks around in confusion and fear. A scared boy is being addressed by a mysterious figure in a desolate environment. Sound effects of footsteps and movement in a ruined area. The person with purple hair is bewildered by the boy's actions. Sound effects of footsteps and movement in a ruined area. The boy is questioned about his location while appearing distressed. Mysterious tall figure observes a ragged child in a desolate environment. The tall figure questions the child's silence, appearing frustrated. The figure reveals a rat, prompting a reaction from the child. The child vehemently refuses the offer, startled by the figure's sudden movement. The tall figure expresses anger and confusion about their sudden, unknown location. Someone notices a child in a desolate environment. The purple-haired person questions the child's behavior. The purple-haired person pauses, considering something. The purple-haired person seems frustrated but resigned. The purple-haired person gives something to the child. The purple-haired person expresses uncertainty about the child's intentions. The younger character is surprised, perhaps by something they just witnessed. The older character questions the younger one's actions, implying they were supposed to take something. The younger character expresses confusion in response to the older character's statement. The scene shifts to a vast, ruined landscape where two characters are observing their surroundings. A new character approaches and asks if the other two have seen something shiny. The purple-haired character reacts with hostility and confusion to the newcomer's question. A woman questions the strange words spoken by a distant figure emerging from debris. Someone questions the child about their unusual attire and asks if the tall person is their father. The child reacts with surprise and embarrassment to the question. The woman observes the situation with a focused and serious expression. A sound effect indicates a reaction or a moment of contemplation. A person on a trash heap notices something strange, while another asks about findings and warns of patrols. Someone questions the identity of a well-dressed man, and another identifies him by his rat. The woman is confused by the strange things being said around her. The group confronts the woman and child, offering a suspicious alliance. The approaching group reacts with shock and fear to something they see. Two men in the group express confusion and alarm. One of the men exclaims in disbelief, recognizing something or someone. A giant mechanical object crashes down, causing an explosion. The characters are warned of the approaching scrap cleaning robot. Woman is surprised by the appearance of the strange robot. Scared child seeks refuge, indicating imminent danger. The child reveals they can speak and warns of imminent death. The woman is intrigued by the robot's internal mechanisms. The character is shocked and gasping, their eyes wide with disbelief. Black Korean character call Painus in a dynamic sharp font. Black Korean character call Ungenus in a flowing artistic font. A powerful pink glowing figure stands defiantly before a colossal dark machine. Two men, one with a helmet and goggles, the other with goggles, express shock. Another character is shown in extreme shock, their eyes wide and mouth agape. Colossal mechanical entity is revealed. Kagwewikwangenus. Powerful figure chastises an unseen entity for its loudness. Girl reacts with shock and awe to the unfolding events. The man is perplexed by the abrupt cessation of noise. The man is bewildered as his signature technique's color changes unexpectedly. The child appears startled by a towering figure with flowing pink hair. The child questions why they are being stared at with such intensity. The child comments on the pretty pink color, possibly referring to the figure's hair. Someone reacts with confusion to an unspoken question or statement. Character's intense gaze suggests surprise or realization. The character exclaims in surprise, questioning if an action was just performed. A group of people confronts a regal figure with purple hair. A man named Kanma asks the regal figure her name. The regal figure expresses confusion and annoyance at the group's words. A child calls the regal figure Pink Papa, causing a reaction. The regal figure is confused by the child's words and comments on her eyes. Kanma acknowledges the regal figure as Pink Papa and introduces himself. Kanma stares in awe, completely captivated by the demonic sect leader's bizarre new moniker. Before the situation can get any weirder, Felicity arrives at the crater, demanding to know where Hotten went. When her armored squad reports that the sect leader and Kanma vanished into thin air, she orders a massive sweep of the area, convinced they couldn't have gone far. Wasting no time, Felicity radios her base, ordering her team to haul all the captured technicians and equipment straight to the Black Tower so they can initiate the next phase of their plan. As she surveys the ruined landscape, a sudden flash of light catches her off guard. Miles away, Sylvia stares in absolute shock as the dust settles, realizing she and her wrecked mech are sitting right in her own front yard. Emily reveals that she had secretly prepared a return spell anchored to this exact spot just in case things went south. Sylvia loses her mind over the revelation, begging the mage to explain the fundamental mechanics of teleportation since she's been trying to invent it herself. But Emily quickly shuts down the science lesson, pointing out they have a much bigger problem. The massive robotic hand of the Athena mech opens to reveal Wu Jin's battered, bloody body. Sylvia panics, terrified that the man who just saved her life is going to bleed out while she was geeking out over magic. She begs Emily to resurrect him, but the mage bluntly states that raising the dead isn't her specialty. Thankfully, the god dragon is still breathing, though Emily warns it's going to take a lot of time and mana to restore his mangled body. Seeing Emily completely drained, the crushing weight of reality hits Sylvia. She blames herself for the absolute disaster, realizing they failed to save a single employee. Her mech is destroyed, and she nearly got her two strongest allies killed by relying on them too heavily. Suddenly, Sylvia gets a frantic call from Dave, who is currently mobilizing a massive private army and a fleet of gunships to storm the Black Tower. He screams that he's bringing the wrath of a small country to save her, completely baffled when Sylvia screams back that she's already safe at home. She immediately orders him to call off the assault. With her Walden Group technicians currently held hostage inside the Black Tower, an all-out war would just get her people slaughtered. Meanwhile, deep inside the Black Tower, the kidnapped employees curse their luck, convinced their CEO abandoned them. But they quickly realize they hold the ultimate leverage, knowing the advanced tech the villains stole is nothing but useless scrap metal without them to operate it. The R&D team decides to dig their heels in, vowing to stall and refuse any cooperation until Sylvia comes to their rescue. But their defiant strike ends before it even begins when the Black Tower's forces finally step into the facility. A woman representing the Black Tower approaches Thomas Kennelly, the R&D manager, and flips the script. Instead of torture, she offers them a massive buyout, 5 times their current salary to work for the Black Tower, plus a 10-year pay advance the moment the job is done. When one of the scientists warns that it's an obvious trap and they'll be executed as soon as they finish, the woman's polite smile vanishes. She coldly gives them a choice: take the money and work, or refuse and be turned into corpses right on the spot. Money always talks louder than loyalty, but a loaded death threat usually seals the deal. Back at the estate, Wu Jin jolts awake in a cold sweat. His mind is plagued by nightmares of his brutal clash with the demonic sect leader, but the memories feel far too vivid to just be a bad dream. He recalls Hotten mocking him for being so blind. The villain had pointed out a fatal flaw that Wu Jin hadn't even noticed. The natural Kai energy in this modern dimension is incredibly thin compared to their home in the Murim world. Realizing the terrifying implications, the god dragon immediately sits up to test his Kai meditation. Meanwhile, Sylvia is standing in her walk-in closet in her underwear, absolutely amazed by Emily's healing magic. Not only is her fatal sword wound completely gone, but her skin has never looked better. Her CEO instincts kick in, realizing that reverse engineering this magic for Walden Medical could be worth trillions, but she quickly snaps back to reality, knowing she needs to focus on saving her kidnapped employees first. But before she can even get dressed, Wu Jin violently bursts through her door, desperately shouting for Emily. Seeing him barge in on a half-naked Sylvia, Emily doesn't hesitate. She immediately blasts the god dragon with a golem hammer spell, utterly disgusted and calling him an unredeemable pervert. Later in the living room, Wu Jin frantically tries to clear his name, swearing it was just a massive misunderstanding. Sylvia finally diffuses the tension, pointing out that his urgent need to find Emily is more important than his terrible timing. Dropping the excuses, Wu Jin turns his piercing gaze to the dimensional mage and demands to know the truth. He furiously asks if she knew all along that the Kai in this world was practically non-existent, leaving Emily in a heavy, guilty silence. Breaking the silence, Emily calmly admits she knew about the lack of energy all along, but brutally adds that she assumed a supreme master of his status would have figured it out on his own. The god dragon is left sputtering in shock, while Sylvia stands nearby, completely lost by their bizarre conversation. Wu Jin frantically tries to explain the crisis to the CEO, stammering through a convoluted lecture about accumulating Kai in the lower abdomen to unleash martial arts. Watching him struggle, Emily sighs and dumbs it down in one sentence. Without ambient energy to absorb, they are practically powerless. Wu Jin is left embarrassed that the mage explained his own life's work faster and better than he did. But Emily clarifies that energy isn't completely gone, it's just incredibly thin. She calculates that the mana concentration here is only a 30th of her home dimension, meaning it will simply take our hero 30 times longer to recharge his original strength. Wu Jin immediately gets defensive, snapping that a true master's body normally absorbs Kai automatically, so he never had to bother meditating before. Before the two can tear each other apart, Sylvia quickly threatens to kick them both out onto the street if they ruin her newly repaired house. Letting out a heavy sigh, Wu Jin drops the argument, admitting that the lack of Kai isn't even the craziest part of this mess. He can't figure out how Hotten aged decades when their last fight was only days ago, or worse, how that bastard is maintaining his massive power in a world completely starved of energy. Across the city, the very monster Wu Jin is worried about is desperately trying to solve that exact problem. Hotten coldly drains the life force from his victims, tossing their bodies aside, but the meager yin energy barely makes a dent in his depleted reserves. Sweating and exhausted, the demonic master curses himself for burning so much power against the god dragon, knowing he has to recharge fast before their next encounter. His frustration is interrupted when his bespectacled subordinate walks in with bad news. The Walden R&D technicians they kidnapped have completely failed to operate the stolen tech. Pouring himself a drink, Hotten coldly dismisses her, stating he only cares about results, not excuses. But instead of leaving, the woman just stands there in dead silence, making the demonic sect leader narrow his eyes at her sudden, eerie defiance. Breaking the eerie silence, Felicity warns the demonic sect leader that his usual methods of draining victims won't be enough to recharge the massive amount of Kai he burned. Without missing a beat, she unbuttons her shirt and offers her own body as a sacrifice to restore his strength. But Hotten isn't having it. Glaring at her with absolute disgust, he threatens to slap her if she ever suggests something so ridiculous again and immediately kicks her out of the room. Standing alone in the hallway, a heavy blush spreads across Felicity's face. She wonders if, after all this time, the ruthless sect leader still only sees her as the helpless little girl he met years ago. Her romantic crisis is quickly interrupted by an urgent report from her scouts, confirming they've finally tracked down Sylvia's exact location. Amused that the CEO is comfortably resting at home after provoking their boss, Felicity decides it's time to pay the Walden mansion a very violent visit. Meanwhile, at a high society gala, the city's elites are gossiping about a brutal mercenary group known as the Black Cavalry, shocked to learn their ruthless leader is actually a young woman. The city's mayor corners a prominent corporate boss, complaining that the cavalry's recent slaughter of police officers has completely tanked public trust. Desperate for a win, the mayor offers a massive bribe, promising to hand over lucrative development contracts if the boss's security company, Silent Guardian, can hunt the mercenaries down. The boss casually remarks that a fight of that scale will require serious capital, playing along perfectly with the corrupt politician. Just as the tension spikes, the boss's subordinate Hans interrupts, allowing them to politely excuse themselves from the suffocating conversation. Stepping into a private restroom, the corporate boss drops his polite facade, his eyes glowing a sinister yellow as a terrifying, razor-sharp grin stretches across his face. He admits to Hans that it takes everything in his power to suppress his overwhelming urge to slaughter everyone in the ballroom. Across town, Sylvia is dealing with her own headaches, aggressively hanging up on a holographic call from an associate who wants her to make a public appearance. With reporters swarming her estate after the Black Tower incident, the CEO just wants to lay low, completely unaware that a demonic hit squad is already on their way. Inside the mansion, Liz notes that Woo Jin and Emily have been dead silent in their room, likely deep in training. Left alone with her thoughts, Sylvia can't help but feel an eerie quiet settling over her massive estate. Outside her 1-kilometer perimeter wall, a swarm of journalists is growing restless. While the rookies complain about freezing in the dark instead of using drones, the veterans know better. With the recent bombings, fires, and rumors of a Black Tower raid surrounding the CEO, being on site is the only way to catch the real scoop. Right on cue, Felicity comes speeding down the dark road in a blazing red sports car. Her backup warns her over comms that the heavy media presence and rough terrain make a stealth attack impossible, but Felicity doesn't care. She orders her squad to stand by and recklessly drifts right through the crowd of shocked reporters. One of the veteran journalists immediately runs the car's plates through the traffic grid, only to find zero registration data. Smirking, he realizes they're about to get the headline of the year. Back inside, Sylvia is busy scouring the net for any trace of the name Pink Papa, desperate to figure out how Woo Jin crossed dimensions, but the search comes up empty. Her investigation is cut short when Liz alerts her to the unregistered car idling at the front gate. Recognizing the Black Tower operative immediately, Sylvia makes a massive gamble and orders the massive iron gates to open. When the two women finally face off, Sylvia mocks the hit squad leader's guts for driving straight into the lion's den. But Felicity flips the script, pointing out that Sylvia is the truly brave one for inviting an assassin into her home. Instead of pulling a weapon, Felicity hands over a tablet loaded with official takeover documents for the Walden R&D division, claiming the Black Tower wants to settle things legally. Sylvia scoffs at the absolute audacity of stealing a company and then asking for a signature. Felicity drops a bombshell. Thomas, Sylvia's lead researcher, has already accepted the buyout. When Sylvia furiously demands to know if her boycotting employees have been harmed, the assassin just laughs, revealing the entire R&D team is happily working around the clock after being promised a 10-year salary bonus. Realizing her loyal staff sold her out for a massive paycheck, Sylvia bitterly admits that money always talks louder than loyalty. Felicity cuts the small talk, revealing a massive twist. 20 years ago, the demonic sect leader arrived in this dimension using the exact same machine Sylvia's father built. Sylvia is stunned, finally realizing her father's life work wasn't a failure after all. The assassin explains that the R&D team's new machine perfectly replicates those original results. Now, Pink Papa is funding the project for one simple reason: he wants to use it to return to Harem. Hearing that his mortal enemy is about to escape back home, Woo Jin freezes in shock, but Felicity smugly tells him there is absolutely nothing he can do to stop it. The dimensional transport will be fully operational in just 10 days, and to make matters worse, once the demonic sect leader crosses over, he plans to destroy the machine and all its data so no one can ever follow him. Woo Jin's blood boils at the thought of being trapped in this dimension while his home falls to the demonic sect. He clenches his fist in absolute fury, swearing he won't let his nemesis just leave him behind, even as Emily desperately tries to calm him down. Having dropped the bombshell, Felicity advises Sylvia to review the takeover documents carefully and turns to leave, but she suddenly stops in her tracks, turning back to ask Woo Jin a burning question about his earlier insult. She demands to know why he called the name Pink Papa perverted. Annoyed, Woo Jin explains that in his world's terminology, the color pink is associated with adult entertainment, meaning the terrifying demonic sect leader is basically running around calling himself Porno Daddy. Felicity's face instantly turns beet red with embarrassment as the horrifying translation clicks in her head. Thoroughly mortified, she stammers that she understands and completely rushes out of the room. Woo Jin is just annoyed by her dramatic exit, but Sylvia realizes something doesn't add up. Emily steps out of the shadows and points out the hilarious truth. The assassin knew they wouldn't sign the contract, meaning she literally risked her life coming here just to find out what her boss's nickname meant. But Woo Jin refuses to let them get sidetracked by the absurdity of the situation. He reminds everyone that if they don't act fast, their only ticket home will be destroyed in 10 days, leaving Sylvia desperate for a counterattack. Meanwhile, speeding away into the night, Felicity radios her captain to confirm she made it out alive. Her boss frantically scolds her for taking such a reckless risk, completely unaware she did it all for a vocabulary lesson. The speaker acknowledges the necessity of a past action, despite knowing it was difficult. The speaker explains their motive: to gather information about Kang Woo Jin's sensitivity to Pink Papa. A white speech bubble with an exclamation mark against a black background. A character questions if someone is alive after being hit by a shield laser, with a confirmation of expectation. The speaker hesitates, about to reveal a confirmed piece of information. A sound effect and an exclamation from a character indicate a sudden reaction or realization. A powerful figure is introduced with a dramatic visual effect. A man reacts with alarm to the sudden appearance of a car and its braking. A woman addressed as captain is spoken to, and she responds silently. A man stands by a sports car on a dark road, seemingly waiting or observing. A person approaches a car, asking if the occupant has a minute to talk. The reporter introduces himself as Gray Lynch from ASN News, but the person inside the car, Kanma, dismisses him. Kanma sternly rejects the reporter's interview request and tells him to step away from the car. The reporter insists he only needs a minute, but the driver warns they will drive off if he interferes. The reporter is hit by the car as it drives off. A man expresses surprise at the attitude of a sports car on the road. A woman questions her senior's actions in a dark environment. The man explains he is teaching her about being on site, while the woman is taken aback. The man reveals his press ID is a hidden camera, much to the woman's surprise. The woman is startled as the man points the camera device towards her. The man reassures the woman he won't use the footage for writing, but she remains concerned. A woman appears, surprising someone who didn't expect her presence. Someone recognizes the unexpected woman, calling out her name. Confusion arises as someone asks about the identity of the woman. The woman is identified as the leader of the Black Cavalry. A woman with glasses stares intently, her expression unreadable. Someone reacts with approval to the information, showing a hint of amusement. A reporter sent a photo and someone is discussing its contents. The reporter saw a woman once while trying to cover a story at the Black Tower. The leader of the Black Cavalry is a woman, confirming a prior statement. The photo was taken very recently in front of Sylvia's house. They confirm Sylvia is in a saddle, and men have been dispatched to her house. A man's face contorted in pain or effort. One man angrily questions another's composure while reporting. He declares their company will secure new development areas after capturing a specific target. He offers a simple apology. He orders a Class 1 state and full dispatch, promising a huge bonus for capturing the target. He acknowledges and agrees to the orders given. He announces a tenfold bonus for capturing the target before the party concludes. The characters are discussing their chances and plans for the Black Tower. The man clarifies his statement, while the woman insists he's still making rash plans. Another character voices their agreement with Sylvia's concerns about the plan. The woman warns that going back without a plan could trap them in dangerous magic. The man emphasizes their lack of time, but is interrupted by a call for Sylvia. A reporter from the Asadal Times is on the phone, interrupting their discussion. The woman asks if someone named Gray Lynch is present. She expresses frustration about a report and refuses to accept it. Someone claims a message was meant for her, and she was expected to react this way. The Silent Guardian is now pursuing Felicity, the leader of the Black Cavalry. She reacts with shock and disbelief to the information given. The search for the target is underway in the 3rd District. The search expands to the 2nd District, with units unable to differentiate data colors. Communication issues arise, units cannot differentiate between data colors. Relevant data about the cars cannot be found or searched. The target is identified as being in a sports car, prompting visual searches. Realizing the search grid is rapidly closing in on their sports car, Felicity knows they are running out of time. To protect her squad, she orders Kanma and the rest of her team to retreat to the Black Tower while she acts as a decoy, proudly declaring that as the leader of the Black Cavalry and the top pupil of Pink Papa, she won't be caught easily. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit room, a shadowy informant reveals his master plan to his associate Linda. He admits that he leaked Felicity's identity to the Silent Guardian mercenary group, but the real twist is that he also fed the intel directly to Sylvia. He smugly notes that the Walden Group CEO was his true target all along, and points out that she is already taking the bait. Right on cue, a massive Walden Group aircraft takes to the night sky, sending local journalists scrambling to launch their tracking drones and chase the scoop. And a junior reporter complains about the hassle of stalking one woman. Her senior explains that Sylvia is practically the queen of a saddle, wielding enough influence to crash stocks or bankrupt thousands with a single word. But despite all that supreme power, she's completely isolated, relying on no one but her AI secretary Liz. As journalists, it is their duty to monitor the queen's moves, and tonight they're hoping she leads them straight to a lavish party. They get exactly what they wished for. A Across town, Carl Rivermore, the CEO of Silent Guardian, is hosting a massive high society gala. But behind the polite smiles and microphone speeches, Carl secretly presses his subordinates to locate Felicity, desperate for solid proof of the Black Cavalry leader's capture before the night ends. Just as a VIP guest asks Carl about Sylvia's whereabouts, a massive commotion erupts at the entrance. The crowd parts in absolute awe as Sylvia herself steps onto the red carpet in a stunning gown, instantly flipping the script on Carl's entire event. Real reason she crashed the event was a desperate gamble. Before arriving, Sylvia explained the dire stakes to her team. If Felicity is captured and interrogated, the authorities will discover Sylvia's illegal transportation system. Gang Woo-jin is completely against helping one of Imhotten's subordinates, but Sylvia begs the god dragon for a favor, tasking them with extracting the assassin unnoticed. Emily questions Sylvia's flashy dress, but the CEO reveals her true play. She's using the gala as a public alibi to throw off the journalists, while secretly commanding the rescue mission from afar. And since the party is hosted by Silent Guardian, she's walking straight into the lion's den to gather intel directly from the enemy. Back in the present, Carl Rivermore steps up to formally greet her. Sylvia coldly calls out his mercenary group's shady business, but Carl just smiles, claiming pioneers always face misunderstandings, just like her. As he speaks, his golden eyes flash with a terrifying, inhuman aura that leaves the usually unshakable CEO completely rattled. Before Carl can press his advantage, his subordinate interrupts with breaking news. They've found Felicity. High above the neon-lit streets of District 16, Silent Guardian helicopters zero in on the red sports car tearing through the night. Hovering mechs descend over the highway, broadcasting a stern warning for Felicity to pull over and cooperate. But the Black Tower assassin isn't about to go down quietly, violently swerving the sports car to dodge their blockade and flooring the gas. The mercenaries instantly retaliate, locking their advanced targeting systems onto her vehicle. Smugly boasting that a mere car can never outrun a military aircraft, they launch a massive capture net to end the chase once and for all. The capture net slams into Felicity's sports car, completely wrecking the external frame. The mercenaries hoist the battered vehicle into the air, smugly reporting to HQ that the target is secured, but Felicity refuses to go down that easily. Trapped inside the hanging wreckage, she activates a desperate escape code. A countdown initiates and seconds later, a massive explosion rips through the sky. The blast obliterates the transport aircraft, sending a rain of fiery debris crashing down onto the city streets below. Amidst the chaos on the highway, the surviving mercenaries scramble to report their failure. They frantically track Felicity as she makes a desperate break for a nearby tunnel. Watching the fiery spectacle from a holographic display, Carl Rivermore just laughs. He remarks that things are no fun if they're too easy, and orders his men to bring the assassin straight to him so he can tear her apart himself. Back at the gala, Sylvia is digging into Carl's past. Thomas Kennelly reveals that Carl is the sole survivor of the Rivermore family, having founded Silent Guardian after a terrorist attack wiped out his relatives. But Sylvia knows a killer when she sees one, noting that Carl's golden eyes are far from normal. Conversation shifts when Thomas eagerly asks to be introduced to the mysterious duo he saw during the recent fire, specifically asking for Emily. Sylvia immediately shuts him down, warning him that Woo-jin and Emily are dangerous anomalies completely out of his league. Unbeknownst to them, Imhotten is eavesdropping nearby, and the demonic sect leader finds this little secret incredibly interesting. High above the city skyline, Gang Woo-jin is having the time of his life cruising on a stolen hoverbike, comparing it to a flying horse. He asks Emily why she's wasting her energy flying on her staff instead of riding with him. When Emily explains she's using a spirit stone, a piece of crystallized mana, Woo-jin obliviously asks why she didn't just eat it earlier to heal herself. Emily glares at him, clearly annoyed by his complete lack of tact. Before Woo-jin can figure out what he said wrong, he complains about how impossible it is to find Felicity in this massive city. Fed up, Emily snaps that she'll find the assassin on her own and zooms off into the night, leaving a very confused god dragon scrambling to catch up. Meanwhile, Sylvia's network comes up totally empty on Felicity's location. She realizes Silent Guardian has completely locked down all city intel, but before she can formulate a backup plan, an unwanted guest suddenly corners her at the party. The unwanted guest turns out to be Mayor Jeremy. He tries to butter Sylvia up with small talk, but their chat is abruptly cut short when two nervous officials pull the mayor aside to deliver urgent news in private. Sylvia discreetly tunes her earpiece into their hushed conversation, and overhears that a massive incident just went down on Bison Road in the 12th District, with the police and media already ordered to cover it up. Realizing this has to be Silent Guardian's hunt for Felicity, Sylvia immediately has her assistant beam the coordinates straight to Woo-jin and Emily, who instantly pivot their aerial search toward the downtown sector. Stepping away from the gala, Sylvia can't shake her unease over the total government blackout. She radios the duo to ask if they've managed to spot the rogue assassin yet. Woo-jin casually replies that Felicity looks a little busy at the moment. Right below them, a massive silent Guardian gunship is hovering directly over the civilian highway. Inside, Carl's furious mercenaries are begging to blow the assassin to dust for killing their squadmates, but High Command officially authorizes maximum firepower with one frustrating catch: she has to be brought in alive. Down on the road, Felicity is tearing through traffic on her red motorcycle, assuming she's safe surrounded by innocent bystanders. But a blank check always speaks louder than collateral damage. Her bike's AI suddenly screams a missile lock warning just as a drone fires a live warhead into the crowded highway, triggering a massive, fiery pileup as Felicity barely swerves out of the blast radius. Watching the chaos from the sky, Emily panics, while Woojin casually points out the giant explosion below them. Down in the smoke, the mercenaries completely throw the rules out the window and unleash a massive swarm of homing missiles, forcing Felicity to desperately deploy flares as the city street turns into an absolute war zone. Missiles rain down on the civilian highway, causing massive pileups. A terrified mother shields her child as a massive piece of flaming debris hurtles straight for their car, but at the last second, Woojin drops from the sky and punches the projectile away. The shockwave shatters the street, but the family is completely unharmed, staring in awe at the man who just saved their lives. Lee lands right behind him, and Woojin immediately orders her to check on the wounded. Over their comms, Sylvia urges Woojin to leave the civilians to the city's rescue teams and focus entirely on catching Felicity before she disappears. Emily is genuinely surprised to see the supposedly ruthless martial artist caring so much about ordinary people, but Woojin knows Sylvia is right and quickly takes off back into the sky to resume the hunt. Left behind in the wreckage, Emily approaches the terrified family still cowering in their car, flashing a bright smile as she promises to use her magic to heal all their boo-boos. Meanwhile, Mayor Jeremy is absolutely losing his mind, screaming at Carl Rivermore for turning his city into a war zone and ruining his political reputation. But politics is just a game of finding the right person to blame. Carl calmly sips his drink and shows the mayor a picture of Felicity, smoothly promising that capturing this Black Tower assassin will give them the perfect scapegoat for all the destruction. Back on the streets, the silent Guardian mercenaries are still raining heavy gunfire down on Felicity. Realizing she's a sitting duck on the open road, she swerves her motorcycle off the highway, but the mercenary drones immediately track her movements, coordinating to lock down her escape routes and trap her in the city's neon maze. The silent Guardian mercenaries successfully blockade the exit ahead, trapping Felicity right in their net. Meanwhile, Thomas Kennelly frantically updates Sylvia on the pursuit, but before anyone else can intervene, Woojin finally spots his target. Ignoring Emily's panicked warnings, our hero dives straight into the danger zone. Down in the neon-lit streets, two massive mercenary mechs corner Felicity, smugly demanding she surrender peacefully. But their shakedown is interrupted when Woojin casually pulls up on his own bike, leaving the heavily armed goons completely baffled by this random intruder. Completely ignoring the giant death machines pointing guns at him, Woojin furiously demands to know which one of these bastards dropped the missile that nearly wiped out an innocent family. The mercenaries are dumbfounded by his sheer audacity. But Felicity isn't about to waste this perfect distraction. Revving her engine, she violently skids her bike under a narrow bridge structure, slipping right through the mercenaries' fingers and disappearing into the tight alleyways. Realizing his only lead is getting away, Woojin immediately guns his engine and speeds after her. The mercenaries try to give chase, but their massive anti-cavalry mechs are far too bulky to fit down the narrow streets, leaving them stranded and furious. Back at the gala, Silent Guardian CEO Carl Rivermore receives the humiliating news of their failure. Furious that his men brought the wrong equipment, he orders his elite bodyguard hands to abandon his post and hunt the assassin down personally. Left completely alone, Carl tries to regain his composure just as Sylvia approaches him, and she isn't here for small talk. Sylvia immediately confronts him about the leaked intel that his mercenaries just bombed a civilian sector. But power always talks louder than the truth, and without missing a beat, Carl shamelessly pins the explosion on Felicity, branding the Black Tower as domestic terrorists. When Sylvia demands to know why the city hasn't issued an official statement, the corrupt Mayor Jeremy steps in to cover Carl's tracks. He smoothly claims they had to bypass the police and hire the Silent Guardian in secret, spinning a convenient lie that the authorities are already infiltrated by the Black Tower. The man questions how the Black Tower could grow so large in a short period of time. The man explains his cautious approach to selecting trustworthy individuals for a secret operation. He assures that the Silent Guardian has police authority, suggesting a comparison of efficiency. The woman reacts with disbelief to something that was said. The man directly addresses Miss Sylvia, noting her apparent disapproval. He questions if Miss Sylvia has any connection to the Black Tower. A man and a woman are shown in close-up portraits, suggesting an important interaction or confrontation. The woman realizes the man knows about Felicity's visit to her house. The woman suspects the man intends to use Felicity to blackmail her. The scene opens at a formal party with many guests dressed in suits and dresses. A man with an intense gaze and a slight smirk is shown in a close-up shot. A woman with blonde hair and large, expressive eyes appears flustered and slightly worried. The man laughs, claiming he was just joking, as the woman reacts with an exclamation mark. The man formally apologizes to Miss Sylvia for any offense caused by his words. The host of a party announces he will share good news before the event concludes. A man confirms the Silent Guardian's ability to capture the Black Cavalry, impressing others. A woman questions why Mayor Jeremy is siding with the Silent Guardian, suspecting leverage. A man notices Sylvia's distress and asks if something has occurred. Sylvia asks Dave about the Silent Guardian's role, prompting his suspicion. A man expresses confusion about why the Silent Guardian, a civilian agency, is invited. A man explains how government cutbacks have shifted work to civilian agencies. The man reveals that Asadal plans to follow suit, and Silent Guardian was noticed. The woman understands the connection to Mayor Jeremy, who needs support for re-election. The woman questions the fixation on catching Felicity, and the man asks what she means. View of a sprawling advanced city at night, shrouded in mist. A wide highway stretches through a gritty, industrial part of the futuristic city. Kopaenus. The vehicle is parked in a vast industrial setting. A woman sits atop the futuristic vehicle. The woman opens a compartment, revealing a robotic suit. A detailed view of the robotic suit is shown. The person's arms are crossed, suggesting a pensive mood. The person is in the process of changing their clothes. A woman confronts someone who is trying to escape. He turns to face her pursuer near a large machine. The man boasts about his tracking skills. The pursuer gets closer to the person by the vehicle. He questions their location, attributing his finding them to a special sense. The protagonist recalls her childhood spent memorizing the backstreets of Asadal. Man asks if he is under orders from Sylvia to be eliminated. Man reacts with shock to seeing a woman in lingerie. The man tells the woman to put her clothes on, noticing the knife. Man questions what is happening as a kick lands. The woman unleashes a powerful kick. Man reacts with surprise to something happening off-panel. They engage in a dynamic aerial combat, weapons drawn. She maneuvers through the air, weapon ready for attack. Close-up of a foot hitting something with great force. The woman lunges forward, her weapon poised. He playfully taunts his opponent with a confident gesture. Three figures in midair, two in lingerie, one in civilian clothes, kicking up dust. One of the women shouts at the others to put on some clothes. Man is hit and expresses his frustration. He seems to be struggling with something, unable to avoid it. The scene shifts focus to the women's attire and their reactions. He exclaims that he has no choice but to look. Taking full advantage of his momentary distraction, Felicity kicks Woojin square in the face and leaps away. But the god dragon isn't shaken off that easily, instantly catching up and insisting he's only here to help. Felicity isn't having it, drawing a glowing red energy blade and declaring she'd rather die than accept a handout from him. She launches a fierce assault, but Woojin effortlessly evades her strikes until she's left panting for breath. He casually praises her swordsmanship while pointing out her complete lack of defense, admitting he's holding back because Sylvia would end his life if he actually hurt her. He once again promises he has no intention of killing her. Instead of fighting back, Felicity suddenly bursts into tears, sobbing that she despises him because he's the reason Pink Papa had to return to Murim. Woojin instantly panics, frantically waving his hands and begging her to stop crying before someone gets the wrong idea. But his worst nightmare comes true when a massive bolt of white lightning strikes him from above. Emily finally arrives on the scene, immediately electrocuting our hero and branding him a pervert while he desperately tries to explain that it isn't what it looks like. Meanwhile, the real threat is closing in as Hans and his elite squad of Silent Guardian soldiers deploy into the underground city. Hans notes that Felicity made a fatal error trying to lose them down here, because this dark, mechanical underbelly is exactly where his men thrive. Up at the gala, Sylvia and Thomas Kennelly realize their communication feed with Woojin and Emily has gone completely dead. Sylvia is practically pulling her hair out with worry, guessing they've been dragged into a fight, but she knows storming out of the party now would instantly blow her cover. An older guest notices her pacing and tries to make small talk, prompting Sylvia to awkwardly claim she's just feeling a bit flushed from the heat. But when he makes a sleazy joke about her taking off more clothes, she completely loses her cool and screams at him to back off. Back in the alley, Emily is still ready to throw hands, forcing Woojin to scold her for attacking before assessing the situation. Defending his honor, he proudly proclaims himself the most well-mannered gentleman in all of Murim, even begging Felicity to back him up since she knows his reputation from I Am Hotten. But Felicity just blushes and nervously asks what he plans to do with her now, making Woojin look guiltier than ever. Sweating bullets, he begs Emily to just call Sylvia to clear this entire mess up, only for the mage to drop a terrifying bombshell. Their connection to Sylvia is completely dead. Emily drops the technical truth: there are no signal relays down here in the underground city, meaning they are completely cut off from the surface. Woojin instantly panics, realizing that without Sylvia acting as their GPS, they are completely lost in the dark. Felicity casually flips the script, revealing that this industrial maze is practically her backyard. She used to run errands down here for Pink Papa when she was just a kid, and tells them to head back up while she goes on alone. Woojin immediately shuts that down, refusing to break his promise to Sylvia to escort the assassin safely to the Black Tower. Felicity is totally baffled by his stubbornness, pointing out that helping an enemy operative brings him zero benefit. Worse, she can sense that his Kai is completely drained, bluntly warning him that if he runs into Pink Papa in this weakened state, he's a dead man. Woojin admits it sounds crazy, but proudly declares that he's a chivalrous warrior who always repays his debts, and right now, he owes Sylvia. Staring at this utterly clueless powerhouse, Felicity deadpans that Pink Papa was absolutely right about him. He's a blatant fool who just lets people use him. Meanwhile, the man himself, Pink Papa, is lounging back at his base, getting the latest intel. He isn't too worried about Felicity retreating into the underground city since she knows it like the back of her hand, but his subordinate drops a chilling warning. Silent Guardian has deployed heavily enhanced cyborgs who were born in those very same slums, and they are already closing in. Down in the depths, Hans' elite strike team is tearing the place apart, blasting through walls and vehicles just to track the assassin's scent. They've brought along a cybernetically enhanced local named Christian to guide them through the urban decay. Staring into the horrid slums of his childhood, Christian smiles, eager to turn this little reunion into a bloodbath and see just how strong the Black Tower's forces really are. Up on the surface, Mayor Jeremy nervously warns Carl Rivermore about the escalating situation, stressing that crossing Sylvia is a terrible idea given her massive influence over the city. But Carl just smirks, confidently assuring the corrupt politician that he has everything perfectly under control. Carl continues his smug attitude, revealing he already has a plan to keep Sylvia completely distracted, assuming the powerful CEO is too busy enjoying herself to interfere with his hunt anyway. Meanwhile, on the surface, the media is already eating out of Carl's hand. Two local reporters watch breaking news of a massive explosion downtown, which the Silent Guardian has officially blamed on the Black Cavalry. But the journalists immediately spot holes in the story, especially since the devastating blast miraculously resulted in 0 casualties. The real shocker comes when leaked footage shows Emily using her magic staff to heal the wounded. While the junior reporter is stunned by the impossible display of magic, her senior completely misses the point, absolutely mesmerized by Emily's beauty before suddenly receiving a mysterious party invitation. Down in the dark depths of the underground city, Carl's elite strike team finds Felicity's wrecked motorcycle. Christian deduces she's taking the hidden waterways to the Central Plaza, a secret route he somehow didn't know about until now, making Hans question if the cyborg is really a local. Realizing their prey has already slipped out of the waterway, Hans orders his heavily armed men to block every path leading to the Black Tower to flush her out. He specifically warns Cody, the leader of their highly mobile tracking unit, not to underestimate the Black Cavalry boss, but the cocky tracker just laughs, eager to see if she can actually put up a fight. Head of the hunters, Felicity is losing her patience. Still completely weirded out by Woojin and Emily tagging along, she mutters that Pink Papa should have just explained things clearly instead of causing this mess. She begs the duo to just go back to the surface, but our hero flatly refuses, pointing out that her ride is trashed and they aren't leaving her alone. As they walk, Woojin and Emily marvel at the massive, empty ruins around them. Felicity explains that this is old a saddle. The greedy elites literally built the gleaming new cyberpunk city directly on top of this one, cutting off all utilities to the lower levels to save money and forcing the poor to abandon their homes. But the history lesson is cut short. Woojin's sharp senses suddenly tingle and he locks eyes on the dark ruins behind them, warning the girls that Carl's strike team has finally caught up to them. Man expresses surprise to a woman about her knowledge of an enemy. The woman explains that she senses the enemy's Kai. Man questions if she is referring to Kai. Man confirms it is the same Kai as those who pursued them. Man makes a gesture while standing next to a woman. The woman reacts with wide-eyed surprise to the man's statement. She is contemplating something with a serious and concerned look on her face. The man explains that Pink Papa could sense people from a distance. Her narrowed eyes suggest a dawning realization or suspicion about something. He questions if another man holds more importance to Pink Papa than he does. Yo, what are you thinking about? Her wide eyes convey surprise or shock at a realization. A man with spiky red hair prepares to fight, confident they just need to knock out their opponents. The man expresses his desire to confront the person responsible for an earlier bombing. One character suggests they move away from their current location. Character reacts with surprise to a suggestion or statement. A man questions a decision, while the armored woman explains the military-level threat. A woman warns that even the person she's speaking to will struggle against the full force of the enemy. A woman in a red dress questions if the Silent Guardian had hidden advantages. The Silent Guardian's strength comes from foreign mercenaries, making them superior to the police. The speaker realizes the reason for the city bombing after learning about the Silent Guardian's power. The woman expresses concern about sending Wu Jin and Emily to confront the Silent Guardian. The woman is visibly distressed, her thoughts trailing off in silence. The woman declares her intention to join others, unconcerned about public opinion. Man's voice wonders where Sylvia is. Sylvia in a striking red dress is revealed. Man approaches Sylvia at a formal event. Sylvia reacts with surprise to the man's presence. Sylvia addresses the man as President Rivermore. President Rivermore states he has someone to introduce. Reporter introduces himself as Gray Lynch of the Asaddle Times. Man in a suit grabs another's shoulder, causing surprise. Woman reacts with shock, asking why. Man, Reporter Gray, laughs while being addressed. A woman confronts Reporter Gray, implying he has written negative articles about her. Reporter Gray is presented as someone providing information about the leader of the Black Cavalry. The man explains that Reporter Gray was brought to share valuable information. Woman observes the situation with a suspicious or calculating gaze. A man questions his opponent's ability to win with a smug expression. A woman asserts her dominance, stating her opponent cannot escape her grasp. A man is surprised to learn the reason for a meeting, questioning the plan. A woman agrees with a plan, believing an article will be more effective than marketing. Two characters have contrasting expressions, one stern and the other seemingly playful. A man jovially greets someone named Sylvia while being served a drink. A man questions someone about their weaknesses while holding a drink. The woman confidently states that she is too smart for her own good. She claims to know why the other person hides things and lies. She challenges the other person to reveal the truth if she is mistaken. The man looks displeased, holding a glass of liquid. Her eyes are wide and her cheeks are flushed. A blonde-haired person and a bespectacled person look concerned and confused. The person pauses, seemingly in thought or contemplation. Someone exhales a sigh of relief or exhaustion. A man with white hair clarifies his intentions, stating he brought people to introduce. The host invites guests to enjoy the party. The scene shows a lively party with many guests, including a woman in a red dress. Back at the gala, Sylvia finally corners Carl. She knows he's the rat who reported her ties with Felicity to the mayor. Carl just laughs off the accusation, completely shameless. Instead of throwing out Carl's uninvited guests, Sylvia flips the script. She offers to cover all their expenses and tells them to enjoy the night. But Carl isn't backing down, slyly suggesting his guys stick around to see what else they can dig up. Meanwhile, deep in the underground ruins, Cody's tracking skills pay off. He locks onto 3 targets, realizing one of them is an enhanced local actively dodging his signal sweeps. Tired of playing cat and mouse, Cody skips the stealth approach and broadcasts their exact coordinates to the entire strike team. Christian instantly senses the shift. He panics, warning Wu Jin and Felicity that the enemy is rushing their location. Felicity assumes the maze-like ruins will keep them hidden, but her confidence shatters when they are suddenly cut off. Carl's cybernetic mercenaries surround them. The scarred leader greets Felicity with a menacing smile, recognizing Wu Jin as the guy who interfered earlier and assuming he's part of her Black Tower crew. But the tension breaks when one of the goons spots Emily and makes a completely out-of-line comment about her flat chest. Emily absolutely loses it, swinging her staff at the pervert in a total rage. Scarred mercenary interrupts the chaos, turning his attention back to Wu Jin. He smugly asks if our hero remembers the bomb from earlier, proudly confessing that he was the one who dropped it. Before anyone can react, a massive explosion rips through the ruins, blasting Wu Jin straight into the water. Felicity screams his name as the smoke clears and the mercenary starts to gloat. But his smirk instantly vanishes. He stares in absolute shock because Wu Jin is already standing back up, completely unfazed. Wu Jin grins, casually brushing off the ambush like it's nothing. The strike team stares in absolute horror, wondering how he just survived a point-blank headshot. Felicity checks on him, but Wu Jin just smirks, declaring that he's actually glad these guys are pure evil, because now he doesn't have to hold back. Cody furiously checks his weapon, thinking it must be defective, but before he can even blink, Wu Jin closes the distance. The god dragon throws a blindingly fast punch, and though the tracker barely manages to dodge, he's left sweating, completely terrified by our hero's impossible speed. Convinced that Woo-jin must be a cybernetically enhanced human, Cody opens fire, tearing the ruins apart with explosive rounds. He lands heavily in the rubble, panting and trying to regain his footing while Christian and Emily watch the chaos unfold. Realizing bullets won't work, Cody smashes his own gun into the dirt and decides to fight fire with fire. He flexes his heavily modified muscles, his body surging with blue energy as he proudly reveals that he's also an illegal, physically enhanced cyborg, completely immune to normal attacks. Hearing this, Emily panics, knowing Woo-jin's Kai is completely drained, and she immediately prepares to step in with her dimensional magic. But Felicity grabs her arm and holds her back, confidently telling the mage to sit tight because this is Woo-jin's fight. And she's right to trust him. Woo-jin stares down the glowing cyborg with a predatory grin, admitting he has no idea what Cody is yapping about. He just wants to know one thing: if his opponent is really that durable, does that mean he can finally hit a little harder? Furious at the disrespect, Cody completely loses his mind and activates a dangerous, glowing red overdrive mode. His own men scream at him to stand down, terrified that he's going to slaughter everyone in the room, but the raging cyborg ignores them and orders Woo-jin to come at him. It's the biggest mistake of his life. Woo-jin instantly vanishes from sight, blitzing the cyborg with a relentless barrage of brutal, earth-shattering strikes. Cody's arrogant smirk vanishes as he's completely overwhelmed, unable to even track the god dragon's movements. Unfazed and barely breaking a sweat, Woo-jin cheerfully compliments the tracker for staying on his feet, before grinning and promising to turn up the heat. Cody's eyes go wide with pure terror as he tries to beg for mercy, but it's too late. Woo-jin steps in and delivers a devastating, bone-crushing blow that completely shatters the cyborg's defense. The sheer force of Woo-jin's strike triggers a massive explosion that tears through the street, leaving the rest of the strike team and even Emily and Sylvia staring in absolute shock. Stepping out of the smoke, our hero just smirks, joking that the tracker should have told him to go full strength from the very beginning. Seeing Cody absolutely ruined on the ground, the remaining soldiers are terrified, instantly assuming Woo-jin must be some kind of ultra-advanced hybrid cyborg. Felicity warns him that enemy reinforcements will be flooding the area any second and suggests they make a run for it while they can. But Woo-jin isn't backing down, casually suggesting they just wipe everyone out and end it right here, just as two massive, heavily armed mechs step into the fray. Mech pilots demand his immediate surrender, threatening to kill him while claiming they don't want to hurt the girls behind him. Unfazed, Woo-jin just smiles and asks if they're actually strong. He warns them to speak up now if they're weak because he's going to hit them with the exact same power he used on Cody, and he doesn't want to hear any crying afterward. Furious at the total disrespect, the pilots snap and order their troops to slaughter everyone in sight. Meanwhile, Carl Rivermore hears the heavy weaponry going off in the distance and is furious since he explicitly ordered the targets to be captured alive. But when he turns to his cybernetic guide to demand answers, he finds Christian sweating and completely paralyzed with fear. Staring at a massive spike of blue energy radiating from the battlefield, Christian is horrified. As the system feed glitches out from the sheer, world-ending scale of Woo-jin's power, they finally realize they have no idea what kind of monster they just picked a fight with.